here he takes the game, let's say, out of a theoretical grounding and more towards something ultra conceptual.
Alright, so we are live.
So surprised that Knight F8, I can't talk, right?
And yeah, yesterday Gukesh won again somehow. He keeps winning those crazy positions where, like, on a normal day he would definitely lose, but I don't know what he's doing.
He's been thinking, he's trying to figure out what to do next.
Again against Hikaru, he's -2. Wait, Hikaru is white, so the position is +2 right now, and in some a narrow disc said that it's +4, which is like, if he wins or even if he draws this position against Hikaru, then I don't know what to say. Wait, where is that game? So they are like right now covering Armageddon between Wei and Magnus.
I don't know if it actually pans out because Black just defend, and it's not like White has misstepped.
I forgot to check the stream, so let me see.
So they are like,
yeah, the audio is good.
Whether or not he makes the decision to play d4 is actually not, I think, truly essential to the flow of the game. So it's better to make a decision faster.
Okay, wait.
I agree. He needs to play quickly, keep pace, and keep a lead in the clock. By the way, Gukesh has offered a queen trade. I just took a peek over there,
Okay.
and it's a pawn sacrifice.
Gukesh offered a queen trade.
I'm wondering if Hikaru actually will take it, because he can just keep the queens on the board and keep the status quo, but he can win a pawn if he wants.
Yeah, for anybody watching, take on F5 twice, and because of Black's back rank, he cannot take back. So we are not missing anything cataclysmic in that game.
Let's start with the game. Quickly.
Still hasn't made his move. This is odd to me, Danya, because he just
I'm still in 800s,
He is doing the
and I blundered again.
Ivanchuk versus Anand from that famous viral Blitz game. Ivanchuk takes 4 minutes in a 5-minute game. He takes something like, let's see, 2 minutes on his move. And he finally does play d4, but he precedes that with queen to b3, inviting the knight to e6.
I'm so distracted in this game, and we shouldn't play chess like that. I know.
as healthy as it can be.
But
is very natural.
this tournament has gone way interesting than
Feels slow.
it started like Gukesh losing 2 games.
b7, b5 with tempo like this.
Then-
You have to maybe burn
then
another
he-
one b4.
then
There's
he
all sorts of
went
setup
and,
tactics with like knight takes e4, d5.
And then he went and
To me, like,
won
from an
2 games
flow of the
against
game perspective,
Arjun and Magnus, and no, he also won against Hikaru.
no, I think Magnus is well on the way already out of the open to taking this one.
What way he needs to do is play just quick moves, because his long things, they haven't netted him an advantage, so he needs to just keep the pressure.
Alright, so we have a viewer.
Magnus go wrong in time trial against
Finally.
Gukesh, of course, but also against
Let's
Hikaru.
trade the queen.
Okay, knight c4, and I love the move bishop f1 by Wade. That shows an understanding that everything back. Let's keep the pieces on the board, and let's not give Magnus any easy wins, literally and figuratively. Knight to c4 now, the pawn of 25 is hanging, and the b6 square is a wide open gap, which precludes Black from taking and playing d5. I think Magnus may have missed this detail. Maybe he was a little bit over eager in playing a5.
And now, if Black has to
I want to take his knight. His knight can only go back
then White
or
just
here.
goes bishop to e3, and I'm not sure, Danya, if Black will be in time to play b6, because the bishop on e3, the knight on c4, the queen on b3, they all stare at that b6 square. It could be tactically problematic for Black.
Oh, I
That's why
jinxed
took
him.
on
I
d4.
jinxed him as usual, and I was going to show this on the small board. I won't even have to show it. Let's wait until Wei takes back. which
Okay,
I
so
assume
he
he will.
goes this way.
Could there knight b6 at first?
I can castle now.
Right now, 'cause c takes d4 is automatic.
And knight b6 would run into it. He's played it, and rook a6 now would run into. Oh, hello, there's the bishop on f1, folks. You can't do that.
Damn, the way Narodisky commentates gets me very excited.
Great call, Robert. That is what he was thinking about, and he puts it into effect. This white just like seriously.
Okay, so he wants to go here.
Maybe he'll move the knight back to open the door for this bishop.
Should probably play this move. if I'm not
Bishop
missing
D I like the
anything.
most. I'm not saying I like black's position, but it forces the issue. The knight on b6 is now under attack. If it takes the bishop on c8, black takes back. And even though black is cramped, with fewer pieces on the board,
Blitz.
you do gain more space for your remaining pieces.
Yeah, happy to put another game up on the small board, by the way, if there's something big happening.
I really want to see Hikaru versus
We haven't
Gukesh
seen
right now.
in Arjun against Fabi or in Hikaru against Gukesh.
Okay, so there's no move against those.
See there. So nothing
Let's play this move.
take
He
our
wanted to go
attention.
here,
No
and
moves
I
have been
can
made.
simply protect it with
Except in this
Queen
game,
c2,
letting
King
the
c2.
bishop pair seized by way, and very often in such
My
positions,
plan is this and
typical
this.
plan is to refianchetto the bishop.
Daniel, this doesn't look so
So
bad.
he's triple attacking my
Because
pawn.
typically the downside of playing this manner is
Uh,
that it gains a
like,
tremendous amount of space.
sorry for
White
those
is competing in the center.
arrows.
And there's no target that white can exploit. Like a5
So,
is protected, b7 is protected, d6
wait.
can be attacked. So I have to say that all things considered,
This is tricky.
Magnus doing okay on the board and doing pretty well on the clock.
Given how many concessions Magnus has made, I absolutely agree.
This
Now, what
move
would I do
works.
if I were Wei? Maybe drop the
Okay,
queen
it
back. The
doesn't.
queen on b3 may look impressive, but it actually
I
offers
go
black a nice little
here,
target of his own to offer a queen trade, which I think would
you
not
can
play into
go
white's
here.
hands, given how much pressure the center is under.
So
I would
I
consider
should
queen
just
c2, maybe
wait with
fianchetto the
this
other bishop.
move
Instead, he puts that bishop on d2.
and let
I
him
fought
capture
Magnus so
this.
many times in Blitz, he loves moves like queen b6.
He loves the end game, and I think in Armageddon, where a draw is equivalent to a win for black, that players just fear queen trades. At queen b6, there's no universe where he's going to take that queen. Instead, he'll move his queen probably to. Okay, I was going to say c2, but that hangs upon the center, so d3 keeps the d4 pawn protected. Danya.
Now I try to double my
White
rooks.
can use a rook lift, rook a3 later.
It's giving me like flashbacks to all of the endgames I've had against Magnus. You said he loves the endgames, especially against Naroditsky. But queen d3 here runs into d5, stabilizing the center, and then maybe
And
establishing
this-
a knight on e4. I'm starting to warm to black's position here once again. And I'm a people pleaser in this game. I like white is better and black is better at the same time. Just can't make up my mind.
I think that black's position feels very
This
healthy
game
for
is
the time being. He
has
queen
been
d3,
really tough to do.
d5,
Now I can
he
go
didn't
here.
reply. Now here's
Wait,
the big
no,
question.
not
I
now.
thought e5 was the
Not
right
now.
choice. With e takes d5 would have left white with I said queen pawn. Here, Danya, white can play with bishop c3. I know the bishop isn't strong over
Yeah,
there.
now I
but
can play this
eventually
move.
white would have to cut the board in half and use the pawn advantage of the king side, b to h file. and try to
Here's
get
only
inside.
this move.
Your point is well taken. He plays bishop e3, which is the more natural move, but the bishop
Then
is
I
in the
can
way
go
of all of the
here,
other pieces. It is cutting the
but
supply line.
this is protected
Logistics
with
change between the rook and the queen.
Rook d7.
Yes, the pawn on d4 is well protected, but look at all the other holes in white's position. The bishop coming to b4. The prospect of undermining white's center with c5.
I don't really have a move
Beautiful
now.
knight coordination. The knight on e4 well established. The knight on e6 putting longer term pressure on white's center. Where's the time advantage? It's disappearing.
Should play
It's gone,
this.
and knight d2 is taken away from white because after knight takes 2, queen takes
I guess
2,
Magnus is
was the
winning
desired reply.
by the looks of it.
e7 sets up
He
bishop
just
to
need-
d4.
he just
That's now
needs a
closed for
draw.
black to use.
Overprotection, way overprotecting the d4 pawn,
Fuck
untying
this.
his hands for action on the king side. I would play g3 and bishop h3. You need to find a job for this bishop on f1. It can't just be, sitting on mama's couch and watching us commentate.
G3 is a great idea, Danya. G3, H4,
What
bishop
the fuck
H3
is
on the
saying?
king side. White does have more pawns on that flank, and you have a bishop pair.
Okay, so he's in time trouble.
Still, time is not the
I
deciding
need
factor
to
yet, but,
get off
you've
this
got
rook.
degree of time advantage. Psychologically, I've played enough
Somehow.
Armageddons to tell you it feels bad when you watch your clock tick down and now you have to win on the board and only on the board.
We'll go here.
Queen B1, lining up bishop to D3,
bad.
C5. And see, Donnie, when someone's trying to attack you, you try to play in the center, and that's what Magnus recognized, that bishop B3 would not have been in time. And so, when you take
I'll double my
key
rooks.
square, but
That's
if
the
you're
only thing
liquidating
I can do
three
right now.
Key pieces, and I think if you take on D4 right now, with bishop C5 to follow, what does white have left?
I
Bishop
have
c5 straight away
this.
might run into some tactics with knight f5. Maybe that's what Magnus is calculating.
Okay,
Then bishop
nice.
takes E3, and
Take
knight
this,
E7 check
this.
feels a little bit
But
too slow.
I'll just ignore it.
Magnus might be asking himself, do I want to take on d4 and preclude all of these complications, or do I trust my calculation?
This is a
and
big,
invest
big
that time
risk.
advantage into
But who
making
cares?
what I think Magnus thinks is the most important decision. If he gets these next few moves right, I think Magnus feels that he's got this in the bag. But let's not forget, the 1 second increment
Ah,
is
nahin.
not much, and it only kicks in 16 more moves.
Yeah, move 24, knight takes d4, played by Wei Yi. Magnus is
Gotta
thinking
go,
a long
gotta go.
time here.
He
needs
did
to
this
play
against
fast.
Nakamura. Let's not forget what he did. He froze. Okay, good. He's moved.
Yes, and he's just trading pieces. Bishop c5 has to be the follow-up.
Hard check.
There goes
No,
the dark
hard
bishop.
check, man.
Danya, I think that Wei Yi should play queen d3, try to go for this endgame where black has his isolated queen pawn and can kick out the knight with f2 to f3 in the near
He's got
future.
no choice. He's got no choice. If Wei Yi would have taken on c5, there was no way to defend f2 there. Magnus kicks the ball across the field. Make a move, he says.
Wei Yi now down to 2 minutes and 10 seconds himself, even on the clock, even on the board. Who is going to play better from here on out?
Queen e3 would run into bishop takes d4, and black's rook can infiltrate. There's so many
This stupid mouse.
Oh, then rook takes c4 at the end.
Exactly, yes. Keep in mind that rook takes d4 would be threatening. Rook takes knight, and rook takes d5 as well in some
Ooh.
positions. So black needs to be careful.
Watch out, rook takes c4, now a threat. If the pawn was back on a7, this wouldn't have been a problem. Magnus has to move the queen away. I would say queen e6 here is the most prudent.
Queen e6 looks very good to me. He can also move the knight, and he does do that. Oh, I wasn't looking that direction. I thought you hung the knight.
Rook takes
e4 is loose.
rook takes d5 is possible here, and it would technically put a pawn in the end.
Oh no, I
That is
gave him a
Pyrrhic
check,
victory if there ever
man.
was one.
Although, in some of these positions, Danya, you allow black's rook to infiltrate, and the white rook gets to c7, so you give up b2, get b7. The f7 pawn is the real target that white needs to go after.
Remember, folks, this is an Armageddon game, which means white has to win. A draw is equivalent to a win for black. Wei Yi is watching his clock tick down, and he is watching his chances disappear with every further ticking second. The problem isn't on the clock, it's on the board. I don't see how he gets this dub unless Magnus makes a grievous blunder.
Okay, I blundered.
Queens are coming off whether he likes it or not, because knight e6 almost pre-movable. He played up rook takes d5.
Fuck
but the
this
queens
game.
will be swapped, as you mentioned. So now knight e6, I think looks good to my eyes, and trade rooks. There's rook c2 is the one down there. How in the world could white do better?
94 merits consideration.
So this game is
Were
still
this
going
not
on. It's
a
Armageddon.
game that you can before drawing.
Okay, let's
Magnus
watch this,
spoils
cause
choice. Queen takes g5. He blundered on d8 with trap.
no.
A grievous blunder, I said.
Wei Yi spots it, done it. That was easier spot once the
The
eval shot
fuck?
up. But Wei Yi just did this all by himself.
Not over
No
yet,
shoulder.
though, Josh. Not over yet. Rook takes f2. Magnus recovers quickly. King takes f2. Was possible. Wei Yi gets a kingdom and a horse for the queen.
No, king and a
No.
bishop this time. It's 2 rooks and a bishop for the queen. Danya, it is a winning material advantage. Is there a way that Magnus can complicate matters and just make Wei Yi think?
50 seconds to make 7 moves just to get that 1 second increment. Wei Yi has to link up his rooks. Rook ad1, once it's played, seals the deal. Unless Magnus can get some sort of a perpetual with his queen. But there's too many obstacles. Robert, what do you see?
The white king just feels a little bit too open for my liking, and at some moment I think white will have to line up in the f7 pawn, but Wei Yi and rook 1 to d4, b2 check, they're going to be checked. Do you like that king on f3?
Yes, heads up move by Wei Yi because the b2 pawn you don't care about as long as your bishop stays anchored in. Black cannot put his pawn advantage to good use. 2 more moves to make until the increment. Queen f5 check meets with rook
Rook
f4.
f4.
Oh, that's why Magnus
G5.
played g5.
That's a great move from Magnus.
Bishop
He's losing,
C4.
we all know it. But bishop c4, queen f5 check,
King e3 and king d3.
you're just running away.
It's checkmate. Once the pawn on f7 disappears, white's pieces converge on black's king like zombies.
Yeah, he
Like
designs.
zombies finding a corpse.
Oh no, he didn't.
And so Magnus tries to hide his queen, thinking that there will not be a checkmate. And don't forget, rook f7, king g6, the d6 score is covered. So he starts with rook to d6, and Danya, Wei Yi wants to slide his king to a2, where it has complete safety.
The Grim Reaper is knocking on the door here, and the door is a flimsy one indeed. They're knocking. Wei Yi's going to hide his king, give up as many pawns as you need to. It doesn't matter.
That king is safe and sound at a2. This should be over, and Wei Yi continues to be a menace in Armageddon.
Damn.
Queen takes h3 and queen f5. Maybe the last chance for Magnus. He tries to hide his king, and the king is wide open. It has no castle to hide in. Rook to c7. Blunders a rook to queen g3. Watch out. Link up the rooks. 5 seconds.
Wei Yi's got fun. He goes rook g6, rook g8 is the mate that he's aiming for.
Surgical. Give him a stethoscope, folks, and give Magnus room because he just
bro.
butchered
Magnus
another
lost.
Armageddon. Wei Yi somehow pulls it off.
Magnus
Danya, you
lost
know,
in
bad
Armageddon.
move from Magnus Carlsen. Knight to g5, or sorry, rook to c2, excuse me, at that moment.
that loss against
And that energy
against
fight
Gukesh shouldn't have
captured. And I
happened.
think we should show the first time why it couldn't be captured and what changed the second time around and Wei Yi capitalizes on what's usually an uncharacteristic Magnus mistake. But
No, it's unlikely that he'll win Norwich. Is very unlikely.
an Armageddon, well,
If Gukesh loses, then he might have a chance. If Gukesh loses today in classical, and I hope he loses Gukesh, because if he wins, then he'll like his confidence will shoot up to a different level, because he keeps winning those losing games. Please cover the.
Move slip from the world number one. It was all the way
After
back
losing,
here
he's like
as, Magnus
giving.
leaves the tournament hall. We were talking about the white rook taking this pawn. Magnus thought, okay, he can find a fancy way here to trade rooks. I'm even going to bring it back one more move because Magnus had just set up a cool tactic. He played his knight back to g5. He wants to plant it back with the e6 square. The knight is untouchable now because
Day before, I guess I was there like once or twice. I mean, I think in general.
Why nobody is texting in the chat today? Hey.
The big thing that I sort of alluded to early in the event.
Uncharacteristic one.
it is suddenly available to white. Because
अरे
now
भाई
the
हो
difference-
गया अभी ये मैच. Gukesh versus finally. Damn the advantage, bro. If he loses this match, if Hikaru even if he draws, I'll literally unsubscribe him and I'll never support him. Because see the time gap. Gukesh has literally 25 minutes against 1 hour 20 minutes. Which is insane.
He's signing autographs now, so perhaps he's over it. He just wants to be done with today and maybe the rest of the event, but there's still plenty to play for in Norway. And Danya, I think one person in particular who has a lot to play for is Fabian Caruana because he entered today in clear first place. Magnus's loss in Armageddon can only help Caruana, and Fabi's position it looks pretty solid as well. So Fabi playing some great classical chess in Norway.
Also, I would
Yikes.
qualify the amazing achievement by Wei Yi. We congratulate him normally, but as Hikaru said in one of his recaps, the Armageddon games don't impact classical rating. They do impact the tournament standings, but at this point, again, let's call a spade a spade. Magnus, I don't think he cares as much as he usually does. He wants to win. Obviously, I'm not implying anything, but he does want the tournament to be over, and he's not going to get too broken up about the Armageddon, as we saw in the Eric Geisy Nakamura Armageddon. Remember that one where Hikaru had it in the bag? And
Yeah, that was something you don't see, but it's kind of like we say that, and now it's meaningless because we've seen it every single day. Players just blundering away tactics that
Exactly.
they
Yo,
usually
bro,
see.
what's up?
I think freestyle chess would work really well.
Omni
Okay, let's
sign.
watch this game.
Omni sign 2.
I just checked, by the way, because you mentioned
What's
how
up?
Armageddon does impact classical rating. Pragnanda won his game today
Pragnanda?
in the Avagin
Pragnanda?
Memorial against Benjamin Glodura.
Okay,
So Prag,
let's see the
sixth in the world,
rankings. I haven't
2770 live
checked it in a while.
And say that again.
2770 live rated at.
Wow,
I'm
third
just a
time's
very
the charm.
literal person sometimes.
2770. Try that on for size. Pragnananda.
Damn,
such
so
an
Magnus
amazing
is
career.
back to
Kinda getting quote-unquote stuck
235
in
and
2600s.
Okay.
Persevering, working on his game.
Caruana is
The,
again in
the
top
honor,
3.
privilege of losing to him in the World Rapid.
Gukesh top
Very
4.
painful game for me, but also very,
Damn.
very impressive performance by him and a good learning experience. That guy's a beast. He is someone who lets his moves speak for himself.
He
Look at
definitely
this,
does.
like
He's playing great chess. So
in
if
after
Fabiano
Fabiano 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, these
there's so
5
much
guys are
happening each and every day in the chess world.
less than
and
my
the
age.
top Indian players, the lineup may change depending on the result in a given round.
Now wait, it's Sonachi 17. I played every Freestyle Friday since its inception. I want you to check the standings of the last Freestyle Friday and check what city both of the top finishers, Sasha Bortnik won, but some
Okay,
freestyle
let's start a game.
clearly would never spend his time playing freestyle chess. Was in second place. I absolutely don't. I respect it tremendously.
Maybe I should start
But, you know,
playing in
nothing
tournaments
is immune
in
to a little bit
chess.com.
of ribbing, you know, good nature.
I'm with you, especially from you. You
What is this
almost
move?
always mean well. I'm sure there's one time at some point where you didn't, but I would say personally you are well intentioned, and Danya, this is true. But I'm just trying to figure out sort of the lay of the land right now. I mentioned how Pragnanda is closing on Arjun if Arjun were to lose today, but I don't see that happening at the moment. But that game is still full of life. The one we're looking at, Hikaru, just chugging along, is at a great position this whole game. But can you see an out for Gukesh? Is there something that Hikaru can do that will allow Gukesh to formulate a plan? Because that's Black's biggest problem in this game, is that he hasn't had a single plan because White has key control over the vital squares.
I'm going to answer your question with sort of, not a question, but I almost feel like White has a similar problem where you have so many assets, but eventually you have to choose, okay, this is the asset that I'm going to try to convert into a tangible advantage. What am I talking about? Well, for example, the fact that a queen trade leads to an overwhelming endgame, Hikaru decided not to take on f5 twice. I think most people watching us, including myself, I would not be able to resist the juicer, I should say, on f5.
Juicer.
Gukesh obviously intended g6. Right, so his idea was to give up a pawn, but in return to finally gain a little bit of breathing room for his king, and the 3-on-2 should result in victory. I don't think Hikaru was confident enough.
Yeah, bro,
Maybe
Hikaru is
felt that he
losing
can
his
essentially get this
confidence
whenever he wants to, so let's try
like
to win the game with the queen's
in
pawn.
every following of his games.
That position, the queen's
I don't know what's wrong with him.
E5, pawn to h5.
Either he gets overconfidence or he's like, I'm done with chess, I'll retire.
1,000% sure
The fuck?
liquidate like this because there's no take back. Once the queens are gone, they're not coming back unless both sides promote. So that.
I hate moves like
That's
this.
why Hikaru said, I can get that later. Play queen to c4. The queen went back to f6, and I feel like Hikaru can just plan and say, I'm restricting the scope of all of your pieces.
I think the time situation did play a role, wasn't decision making, because 25 minutes at this point for Gukesh. So if things get mildly tactical, that'll be yet another problem that Gukesh has to deal with. Of course, the majority of the problems are on the board. Hikaru's taking his time here. Rook e5 is the kind of move I could see him playing instantly. In like
No,
a
I can
Tuesday,
go now here.
that move would be on the board before you finished counting how many places you would go down after you lost to him.
So I see that Bro Coffee is saying Rook e5, Queen e6, a4 for White is the engine recommended line, which makes perfect sense. Like, I actually think that's not a computer, too computery for humans to find. It's very logical because by pushing a4, you threaten to dislodge that black bishop from b6, and then the c7 pawn would immediately become weaker. Bishop on b6 actually gets trapped because bishop d4 is always made by rook to d5. So Danya, it's a funny position where White is gaining space, Black can play a5 as you're highlighting, but eventually White can then even consider playing c4, c5 if that becomes available as a next wave. But White can go queen e4, White can just kind of do all sorts of things, and queen d4 now is no longer possible because the a5 pawn will drop.
That's such a great point that it not only destabilizes somewhat the bishop on b6, you can also imagine a not so distant future where White's king gets to the queen's head and you sack an exchange on b6. So it's just a no-brainer to throw this in. It has no downsides. So after queen e4, let's try to give this kind of a concrete contour, like what is actually going to happen in this game. You're threatening h5, right? That is now a huge threat.
This is a huge threat.
Yes.
And if I play queen to d4, do you have...
Take it?
I'm just
E8
going to
here
protect
allows
this.
queen takes e4 with a check, unfortunately. So now you take on a5. This game is over. I can't play queen d4. How else can I try to check queens? Queen to d4? Still take it.
I think you can still take it because the outside pass pawn is so dangerous.
I mean, it wouldn't... See, people think of me as a late resigner, but this is the kind of position I actually could see myself resigning.
There's just no plan.
I'm exaggerating slightly, of course, but I don't even see a move. Forget the plan. I don't see a single move here. How do you stop h5? What am I missing?
You're missing nothing.
What am I missing?
Missing classical chess. If you could give me a position like this every time with the white pieces.
That was a very smooth transition. Danya, just there really is no plan. Like rook d8, you get back mated with a check. If the bishop moves, we've talked about how the a5 pawn drops. h5 is a threat.
Wait, he can go
The
here.
bishop for white are in a battery, or a checkmate on h7. It's over. I just don't see it.
Well, you're thinking schematically. You're saying like black has no plan. I don't even. Yeah. Playoffs like plan? Like, make a move, another move. Like before. So this is just a disaster.
Practice? We're talking about practice?
Not a game. Not the game.
If Hikaru even draws this game, I swear.
Nick
Who?
Practice. You know who that is?
A chess player, I assume.
Okay, yeah,
Not
he's a
familiar.
West Coast guy, so you know. He's from
Well, I
Oregon.
got it right.
2300. Like played in all the same tournaments that I played for a long time.
Nice. So a very obscure reference for me, but one that I still got.
There's gonna be like one person in the chat. Sometimes I'll make a reference, and like 2 people in the chat get it because it's just some like ridiculous, obscure, old Soviet movie, like the Downfall of Engineer Dubov.
That's a movie that you know of, clearly?
It's the Soviet movie is the Downfall of Engineer Garin, not Garin Kasparov. It's from the USSR. So when Dubov lost the game to Hans, I said, "The Downfall of Engineer Dubov." I was like, "That's a great reference," and everybody ignored it. Sad.
Did you watch the Jungle Book since we last spoke about it?
I have not.
How about the Terminator?
I think I'm going to Terminator this conversation because I haven't watched that either. Are you going to Terminator this commentary as a result?
No, I've already forgiven you. It's okay. We'll move on to a topic that both of us can participate in.
Let's talk about Citizen Kane. Go. Mr. Hess goes to Washington, and Mr. Naroditsky chooses to play me.
Okay. To which game shall we go?
You're the flight engineer. What about the women's section? Anything interesting happening there? And Music-Glating J. Draw.
So we should keep an eye out for Armageddon, is what you're saying?
Vaishali Jun will also be in Armageddon. And Sara Kadem Humpy Canero is also equal.
Yes, Sara's probably slightly worse because her pawn structure is a bit compromised, but in positions like that, you have to count all the pluses that you can. And for black, look at the dark squares. Black has no weaknesses. G3 is a point of entry in the future, and that's something that white will need to look out for, because if black can get a queen on G3 and a bishop on D6 and a battery, then the white king could be in danger. But Danya,
This is tough to
I was talking
defend.
about very wishful thinking, but the E3 pawn as well is somewhat vulnerable, and the B4 square isn't a black square.
Okay,
So
let's
actually,
go.
not just prefer to have the black side.
Yes.
Black is in a great position here, and white needs to be careful.
Yeah.
Humpy Canero played a line of the Queen's Gambit Declined, which of course chess.com refers to as the usual, the English opening, Anglo-Indian, Queen's Knights variation. My cousin's friends, sisters, cousin, uncle, twice removed. And this actually was d4, knight f6, c4, e6, knight f3, d5, knight c3, and h6. I am very familiar with a6, setting up d4, c4. This has been popular for a long time, but h6 is like part of the new trend, right? Just play
Damn.
h3 in any position, and it doesn't actually impact the evaluation.
It's just the nature of closed positions, right? Where you can spend the tempo of playing a pawn move on the rim and claiming that, well, it's not like there's going to be some threat against the king or some tactic that you need to be aware of.
And here's what year do you think h6 was first played?
1880.
That is, you are actually unbelievable. It was played in the game Berthold English against Adolf Andersen, Leipzig, 1877.
Damn.
And it
Damn.
was a slightly different move order. It was still very impressive. It was d4, d5, c4, e6, knight c3, h6, knight f3, knight f6.
So I need to
Really
get.
were not that dumb or dumb at all.
Oops.
Knight
Biggest
c3,
fan.
they actually figured a lot
Yeah,
of stuff out on
cheesy,
their
bro.
own.
Bro, I can't
No
even
engine
hear
to
myself
assist
with
in
this
their
earphones.
calculations, and they still were coming up with lines that have stood the test of time. So that this position, black should be better. How much better is a big question. And Danya, we're being told that Hikaru has played the move Rook E5. And so he's making progress. And okay. So Gukesh played Queen D6.
Going, coming,
And then Hikaru made a move C3, which may not spoil the advantage. But
What?
that's an odd move because your bishop was so perfectly defended on D3. To now remove that key defender and
Suddenly they're playing bullet. They're like take an hour per player on each move, and suddenly they're rifling out these moves, which I would actually be spending some time on. Queen A3 is already on the board.
What did you make of C3? I understand he was taking away the D4 square.
What is happening?
Black's
No,
pieces,
bro.
But the bishop on D3 is not nearly as stable as it once was.
Totally. Like the downside of this move, right? The cure is worse than the disease here. Queen D4 is not a threat, and Hikaru knows this. I mean, A4, Robert, it actually prevents Queen D4 potentially. I think.
I gave him this.
So it feels like Hikaru is putting a band-aid over a problem that doesn't exist, thereby creating actual problems that may cost him down the line. I'm also shocked that he took this long for Rook E5 and this little for C3, a move that's far more committal.
Bro, please, Hikaru, no.
Strange
Don't do this.
occurrences, but they may not actually impact.
Yo, you watching the Norwegian? Yeah, bro.
Or maybe they will.
Probably the most
because
fucked
Queen
up
A3
tournament
threatens Queen to C1, which then threatens Queen G1 check, and the
of
white
the
king
year.
could be in some danger. So
I don't
white
see
had a
any
big idea
tournament
playing A4,
going
A5
this.
is no longer available, and the black queen is about to jump right into the heart of white's position. So H5 is met by Queen C1, and there's a lot to figure out now.
Suddenly white has to calculate, and let's try to tease out some of these pitfalls that white has to avoid. Let me start with this. This is
Oh wait,
scary.
I'm in a
They
game.
checkmated here. This is ridiculous. King F3, I think allows Queen H1, but so does King H2. I'm just show this for players. For
Bro, what
people
is
watching
happening in
how
this
dangerous
game?
this can get. This is not in Hikaru's daily agenda to get this position based on what he just had. Is this winning
Yeah.
now?
There's no. I don't see anything.
I
from
hope
black.
Hikaru has calculated everything.
Queen
I
D7.
hope.
Queen E6, and I thought that.
This
white
is
still
very
maintained
interesting. I
the
believe
advantage.
that Hikaru has a
The
chance,
trade
but
does
not if he
work.
keeps playing like this.
Game
It's
moves.
not good for him. I do think
Queen D1 check is best. And white has
reach
a
that
choice of moves.
that's not good, but
Bishop
so
E2
far
is
the
one
tournament
of the
has been.
possibilities. But black is winning here with Bishop F2. How easy is this to miss? Black wins on the spot here because it threatens mate. Rook G5, check.
Yeah, bro.
Here,
Hikaru, if
the game is over. You are
I know if Hikaru
Look at
knows
this
he is
game.
winning,
This is
then
gorgeous. What
he
a
like
pattern.
It reminds me of.
he plays
what
really
Shaw
quick,
did
but he
Shally
sometimes loses
the
his
first round of the event, whereby Shaw
calculation
was pressing
somewhere.
the game,
Sometimes
this
misses a key move.
I didn't see Bishop
Which
F2 at all.
makes
I was
him
so
lose.
fixated on this check, honestly.
Yeah, this is exactly the type of idea that Vaishali missed. Suddenly the bishop gets in with the queen, and there's a checkmate on the table that you can't stop.
The difference, of course, is that Hikaru has an hour on his clock, but he doesn't seem to be using it too well. What's interesting is here King F3 avoids the problem. Because, why? Because Bishop F2 is met with Queen to F7, of course, obviously.
Oh, I can't play like
Queen
this.
takes E3, diving back to E2, no more meaningful checks. Bishop C5. And Rook E8, only move to win the game. Check, King D1, the King zigzags its way to B3. And the Rook on F8 will be lost with grievous consequences.
Grievous Vasquez consequences.
Count Grievous, right, from Star Wars. Stradios. Good reference.
So, yeah, I see where you're going for though. Queen F7 is a lovely tactic that we should always keep on our radar because the back rank is an issue for Black to deal with. And don't play Queen F7 in the live board because the Queen on A3 defends the F8 square, so Black will just be able to pick up that queen.
That is a reasonable point. Sorry, it is General Grievous. I meant I confused Count Dooku. And Count Dooku. It's been a while since I watched that.
Let's go. King is in the center.
I haven't seen Star Wars in so many years now.
Yeah, that's palpable. Oh my gosh, I am not the Emperor Cleanse today.
Well, hopefully you find your new groove, and we may have to go to a new game.
So he is
because
+2 points.
Hikaru's
Damn,
thinking of
bro.
spending his time here, and
Oh, way I blundered.
Argent's also thinking. So not much change.
And Gukesh really trying to go Nero to hero here. Let's take a look at Argent's game. And
Oh,
this is a
wait,
big
not-
moment in Hikaru's
not a
game,
blender.
because H5 is
Not a
supposed to be
blender.
cut really ugly. You can even lose. We're not exaggerating. He stumbled into mate. This game, I think, if anything, is almost less interesting. I think it's quite likely to end in peaceful conclusion. But I
Okay,
feel like Argent
shit,
should be on
bro.
the
What am
defensive,
I?
and yet he
I
probably
shouldn't
is.
play right now. I just shouldn't
What
play.
can White do? I'm trying to figure that out because D1 is a potential target,
Fuck this.
but the bishop on D4 has nowhere good to go.
I see. Mate threat, knight g5.
Mate threat, knight g5.
And then queen slides from A6 to H6 on the yo-yo string and stops the checkmate and hits the knight.
Now my inclination here would be to play h4, just to establish the knight here and use it as a bargaining chip, trying to induce some weaknesses. I assume you're not playing f6. That would be beneficial to you.
You know what's funny? I was about to blunder. I'd say, oh, queen H5 to H6 next, but H6 will allow queen H7.
Talk about digging your own grave, which I've been progressively doing with these terrible, terrible jokes. Okay, what does Black do here in this position? Now, by the way, it should be pointed out, Robert, just before we go any further, queen to g6. The problem with this move is that actually our old friend makes an appearance. The opposite, rather. The pawn on a7 can be captured, and here at b6 I would be very skeptical.
Right, because D5 falls and White gets all that activity. I think it's too slow for Black. Plus, there's background checkmate issues.
So what is the move that Fabi is relying on here? Why not f takes g6 as Dr. BWA? I guess you should ask Gukesh.
So queen H5.
Completely unnecessary.
Oh, literally
From the top,
0
queen
viewers.
H5 still.
Bishop takes
I won't
g7.
play H6. I won't play.
Is what I was cooking up earlier. Takes. I want to go rook
Wow.
d5.
I just want this
Wow, okay.
game to
always
be
full
done.
tactics. So
That don't work.
why bishop G4? I guess I have. But is that what saves me?
With bishop g4, even knight e6 here, I think is something that White would sign up for, and sign me up maybe for queen e4.
Yeah, the B7 pawn is loose at the end.
So
Oh, what
maybe
is happening right now?
Even after bishop takes
Too
g7,
many
something
things
tells me
happening.
This is not sound,
Too many.
but who knows?
Looks fun though.
Okay, I think we've earned the right to check. Bishop g7 is correct, and it is overwhelming. And here, the only f6 is acceptable, but b6, the calm e6 to protect a7.
Why
set
aren't
up
they
a
like
very
reviewing
important
Hikaru
threat.
versus
I say
Gukesh?
threat, not a short-term threat, but in the long run, points get off the board. This is no laughing matter.
It's a really good point, and something that we like to talk about is the material is even, and we keep harping on the presence of opposite colored bishops, but it's also not a symmetrical pawn structure. So White has this extra pawn in the center, the E2 pawn, I guess, and Black has his outside. Oh, it's not even each, but the C3 pawn more so. So it's like a more centralized pawn, and Black has the A pawn, but that's very dangerous, especially if the queen gets ready.
And logically, White's only immediate target is the d5 pawn. He can attack that by dropping the bishop back, but it comes with a very hefty price tag in the form of completely ruined pawn structure. However, it's very hard for Black in this position to defend this pawn. You can't move the queen. Queen takes h7.
Damn, he did
What
a
you can do
queenside
is either
castle.
h6 or even
Let's go.
Queen to g6, which I really like. However, this endgame
This doesn't look right.
sitting on g5 like this, apparently it's equal. f6 leads to some further complications after rook takes d5. Rook takes g5,
Let's
rook
play
takes
this
d7.
move.
She takes h4. And actually, White is slightly worse here. Queen e4, you need to be very careful in order to hold the draw.
I was gonna say it's not a surprise that White is worse. It's a surprise that White is still surviving. It was almost tragic at this stage with all of White's pawns in the sights of Black's pieces. So yeah, I would definitely not be going for that.
That's the sequel. Okay, anyways. King h1, hg, and king g2 at the top line. I saw this in
I
the
saw
title
that.
Tuesday game.
Yeah, of
Oh,
course. Putting your king in the corner and then blocking the pawn.
He's
Yeah.
played it. This is on the board. Just
Wow.
kidding. He's played knight g5.
No, I knew you were kidding about the entire variation, but knight g5. So queen h6 using h4, just protecting the knight over there. And b6 was the engine's recommendation. That's difficult.
I think queen h6 is borderline forced. And Arjun could drop his knight back to f3. That is not impossible, and I think that keeps equality. But knowing Arjun and knowing his level of ambition, especially in light of yesterday's tragic loss, I think h4 is...
if I go here, then he'll just take my knight with
It looks
this. No,
aggressive.
wait.
It looks strong.
I can go
Protecting the
here.
knight, which is trying to help
I
deliver
can.
checkmate. So yeah, I'm buying that. I think that it's a mixed bag. For now, it looks
His
like
queen
White has
might get
initiated,
trapped
but I
if he
really like
goes
this
here.
B6
Might
or
get
A5 for
okay.
Black at the right moment, and that could
Okay,
be
so he
really
played
dangerous
it,
for White to deal with,
and
because
I have
White doesn't
nah,
have that
bro.
many pieces remaining, and
I don't
outside
want to
pass
blunder
pawns are
again.
notoriously difficult to stop.
I know Eval bar on
But
the
he
right,
can't go here because it's
because
protected
Eval
by
bar is on the
bishop.
left,
He has to
Black
go
bar
here.
is.
Then
People want
Let's
the
see.
Evo bar everywhere.
I don't want the number, though, on top of the Eval bar, because I don't think people can see it, and it's also
okay, so
annoying me.
if I
Is
play
that
this,
I have no idea.
Settings. Let's see. Analysis.
this is tough.
Show move classification support. Okay.
Bro, his
Finding something
Russian
in
accent.
settings that you actually need to find is, I mean, you know how it is.
I'm guessing.
Okay, so he's
can't
going
turn
for the
that on,
checkmate.
but that is interesting because I do think that the number
Oh,
doesn't
nah.
mean a lot to plenty of people anyway. Like
Yeah, you
there's
want
some
a
positions-
snapshot, right? Like who's
This has
you
gone
want an
totally
approximation, that's the point of the Evo bar.
the other way
Right, if
around.
somebody's like plus 0.8, that position actually could have more chance to win than a position with plus 1.5, where there's a thin line. So it doesn't really estimate the chances of players going to win.
Bro, what the
It's
fuck?
similar to like in math where you have
It's
a bar
literally
graph,
forced
and then on
checkmate.
top of the bar graph you have the number, so it defeats the whole purpose of a pictorial representation. Might as well just have the engine assessment.
Because we like pictures, okay?
Yeah, exactly. That's why we have an Evo bar, and I'm just gonna like literally take a piece of whiteout number. It's like my Mr. Bean episode in the library. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't know that episode, but obviously I know Mr. Bean.
Like he takes a book out, Queen H6 on the board, like an ancient antique book out in the library, and then he squeezes on it by
No.
accident, just like in the Bean movie. And then he obviously like the book is damaged, and he starts to like.
I
apply
should just
whiteout
focus
and
on the games.
the whole book.
I shouldn't be
and he has to
playing
find
right
it out
now.
of the library.
I don't know why, like, it's like
So
I
it's
like
some
losing my
typical
ratings.
Mr. Bean shenanigan singular.
Mr. Bean.
How about Mr. Nakamura?
Yeah, please,
Nakamura
please
has made
cover Nakamura versus
A single
Gukesh.
move, king to h3, which is a very good one, I might add.
Okay.
Relax
We're
his-
getting to
He
that
still has the
part of game where there's
advantage.
a lull in the action. Like players are using their remaining time. The positions, some of them are level, others there's still plenty of potential This one, it's been one-sided since Gukesh's error, and I think Hikaru actually has handled this quite nicely. Move c3, which was off my radar completely, and then following up with king h3, it makes a lot of sense. It's just taking away as many squares from black's pieces as possible. Okay, in your little house of stone, which is your bookshelf. I can't wait to see what you're going to show all of us. Is it a similar position? Is it?
Oh damn.
I'm now curious, Don.
No, I mean, I was just going to continue the story of this Staunton Santa Man match and give a few examples of how they went
Can I
after
really do this?
I forgot about that story already.
Yeah, because it was particularly memorable.
Not again.
But I needed like a second or so.
Just resign, bro. I don't want to
What's the
play.
most exciting? Is it this one? I mean, we should keep an eye on the Eragaisi game, but I think it's likely to end.
Let's just watch and try to figure out these games.
Enemies trick in Lei Ting Jie and entered the day in first place. So that should. Oh no, June apologies was in first. She caught up thanks to her classical win. But Anna needs every half point in Armageddon she can get.
It's just so funny how this drama is the drama in the chess world. This is 1844. This is the original from 1844. Oh my gosh, the how do I put it in 19th century slang? The
Rizzle
glazing
will help us
of,
identify who's
Staunton
gonna
in
win.
this
Who's
match. Of
Rizzle?
course, Staunton edited, so he only permitted articles that, let's say, were quite favorable to him. So, like, the very first article is by his best friend. Sorry, before that, there's an article from someone who calls himself a tyrant, which means beginner. That was an SAT, actually. Just to give you a sense, this is the letter to the editor. Okay, so he asks about the Evans Gambit. In playing over the recent games between Mr. Saint-Amand and Mr. Staunton, it is impossible not to observe the omen of defeat in Saint-Amand by his retiring or taking two moves with one piece to arrive at a certain spot, while his indefatigable and active...
Damn, Gukesh has 16 minutes against an hour.
What an astute observation, and never has to retire. Hikaru needs to read this. I allude, of course, to certain openings, as when the board is cleared, no piece can be set to retire. I think I'm retired of reading this.
I was waiting to see where that one went, and I lost my concentration
Then
somewhere
there's
midway.
an article by Harry Wilson, one of Staunton's best friend, and he accompanied Staunton to Paris to the match. The umpire in the great chess match. One of the sentences reads, Mr. Saint-Amand well knows
Hikaru will
the
blunder
laborious
a
practice
draw.
and study his British adversary
No.
is to him but a baby. But a few years.
If this
since he
game
would have
if
received
this
from
game
the
ends in a
army.
draw,
Such
I'll
excuses are absurd. Do not attempt to alloy your
I don't know what I'll do.
genius by such miserable shifts.
yeah, I'll stop supporting Hikaru.
And it's like
Like-
100 pages.
like- These fighting words are hilarious.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
because with this time Hikaru can even beat
All
Magnus.
of the
He can beat Gary, anyone with
little
this.
pamphlets that they would
like,
hand around, and how you read these
Literally
stories.
45 minutes of advantage.
Also, I can totally relate. because
45
Staunton
minutes
talks
of
later
advantage.
about how annoying it is that he has to travel to Paris because Saint-Amand challenges him to a rematch. And Staunton says, well, obviously we should play in London because I traveled to Paris, and undertook a 2-week journey that would now take like 10 minutes. And obviously traveling in the 19th century was really annoying. And people often ask, like, did everybody living at a certain time, did they just adapt? Like, absolutely not. Like, everybody understood that traveling was crap. But a little bit later, last sentence is of this article by Staunton's friend is Mr. Saint-Amand, after putting his queen on pre to draw the game, had the unexpected good fortune to win it because his antagonist refused to draw by taking the offered piece. How nice of Staunton to let his opponent win.
Bro is literally reading 19th century chess books.
If that was intentional, is that reading that correctly?
Intentional, yeah. And then he says, I do trust that Mr. Staunton will not again be persuaded to visit Paris upon terms so disadvantageous as on a late occasion.
I low-key want to read like 19th century chess books. Not books like moves wise, but
It's fun, so
those drama,
playing with some cash.
journalism kind of books on chess.
Oh, he's went back to G2. Look at
Yeah,
this.
they've repeated the position. The queen went to d6,
No.
the king back to g2, now the queen's back on a3.
Are they going to
So-
draw?
Has it?
In the women's?
Oh, yes, it has. Yes, enemies Chuk and Lei Ting-Jie.
Okay. In the meantime, I'm gonna pull that up here.
If he
We're gonna
no,
have 600 more Armageddon, so it's all good.
We love a good Armageddon.
bro, I hate Armageddon.
And
Okay.
Don,
Keep talking.
these types of positions where there's a backward c pawn that black is saddled with for the long term, I feel like it's more fun to play this for white. But if black can find a way out, say like bishop to b4 to kick the rook away.
I don't want to see my rating in 700s.
A couple things. Backward c
Just
pawn.
literally a month
started
ago,
for white.
a month ago I had
Bishop on c2. and
1005.
Rook already lifted.
Imagine going from
By
1005
West
to
Royal in the Armageddon, but
fucking 795.
off to a good start here.
Yeah,
Just
but
imagine
Anna's off to a
that.
really good start on the clock. She has nearly 9 minutes. The position remains very complicated. And wow, that's a fantastic move.
143
C5,
minus
D takes
140.
c5 is met by pawn to b4,
C,
removing the
highest
pawn
rating.
of this c5 pawn.
I was
Keep an eye on the
here.
Hikaru game because
I was
he's
here
obviously not gonna win
on
three times, folks. Everybody relax,
9th
but
May,
he is suddenly
and
in
a month
situation where some accuracy
after
is
that I'm
Yeah.
literally
C5. Lei Ting-Jie, I think the biggest struggle in the Armageddon was the time scrambles. Like every game so far has gone into a time scramble.
Really,
and I think
since
she
March,
hasn't done as good of a job
I'm
as
in
her
this
opponents at keeping her nerve. I think she's trying to make
700
that
to
adjustment
900
here,
journey, then
taking
I
the fight to
finally
lose each other,
crossed
clarifying
1000, now I'm
the
back
game
to
before things get down to
795.
that frantic, chaotic scramble.
Yeah, it's a really well played start for Lei Ting-Jie, and the one thing she needs to keep an eye on is queen d2, queen h6, and then mating attack against the black king. But with these pawn advances, now a trade on c5, c file opens up, and that's exactly what you need to counter any sort of attack. You need play in the center, you need play on the other flank, and down at the bishop on c2 is biting on granite, as you like to say, staring right into the g6 pawn, which is
Yep.
ultra well defended.
There's a lot to calculate for Anna. She has to decide, does she play rook to d3 or rook to e3? The downside of the latter move is that it allows bishop takes c5 with tempo, and I don't think that white can effectively establish a knight on d4. So she does sidestep that with rook to d3. She can now play queen to d2 if she wants to, but king to g7, Robert, the lack of a dark squared bishop here, it's killer for white's attacking chances. They are so greatly diminished because of the uncontested control that black has over the dark squares on the queen side and on the king side.
Yeah, white's gonna have to throw the h-pawn alpha zero style at some point, maybe even now in the current position. But I do like queen d2, rook d1, bishop d1 can always be played, and try to put a knight on d4. I'm giving white all these free moves, and black isn't going to sit and do nothing.
Okay.
But the bishop on e6 has to sit there because the d5 pawn is loose. So there are some things for both players to figure out. But after queen to d2 was just played here, I think that for Lei Ting-Jie, she just can't leave sight of the queen side, king side, excuse me. Can't also lose sight of the b4 pawn, but queen h6 at the right moment could hurt. But for now, she has everything covered.
Again, the dark squares. Queen h6. Black probably is spoiled for choice. I wouldn't be surprised if a move like f7, f6. The side of the bishop pair typically benefits from the board opening up. Tack on the fact that black also has a huge space advantage. White has a weak back rank. There's all these tactical properties of the position waiting to be exploited. I'm also looking in the longer run at this pawn on a3 run. It's not just important in an endgame. Black's queen could land on b2, and it could be a headache in the middle game.
Yeah, in some end games there might be a sacrifice on b3 to spring free an outside passer. So many deep ideas that we will continue to discuss. But at the moment, enemies are now barely ahead on time. The time advantage has been cut to less than a minute, and she's just trying to find an idea here. h4, you mentioned before. I think no matter what, black can play f6, almost pre-move.
And Anna's move just 3 moves ago, b3, is such an automatic reaction. All of us can relate to this. Maybe she should have kept this square at all costs for the bishop, because once the square is taken away from the bishop on c2, that bishop has nowhere to go. The pieces are stumbling over each other. The only thing you can do is tuck this bishop back to b1, which opens up another line of fire down the c file. Only black can benefit from that. White isn't Zugzwang.
There's no easy moves. She does go queen h6. Your f6 move down. It has to be played screaming to be played. It does
Queen
weaken
is to
some
be
control,
played.
namely a bishop takes g6 idea that black will have to look out for, but it does open up key files for black's pieces, and letting J only needs a draw.
Bishop e7. Is that a bad alternative? Because you can't go knight d4 there due to bishop g5. Is white going to go h4 in response?
Probably. Just throw that forward, knight g5 is the original line up, and
Look, you want to play this
look like an
move?
initiative, but the pin on the c file, Danya, also very annoying.
I think black has a pleasant choice here. But in Leiting J's case, it's an unpleasant choice because you start agonizing over playing the perfect move. This, of course, whatever Leiting J does, she has to avoid letting this get chaotic.
Agreed.
I'm
Again,
getting
I'm
sleepy.
just trying to look at the various games, and this one is the most time trouble because it's Armageddon. White start with 10 minutes, black with 7, black wins with the draw, and Donna, we're seeing moves come in here after. No, sorry, no moves here. And music check is a different game. Just had a move. But I'm worried about the clock for black in particular because
If we
white
ever-
does have an initiative, and black needs to be very careful. F6 in the near future will run into knight d4 and big attack.
Comparison. Comparison is amazing how it
Comparison.
distorts, or sometimes the opposite, your perception of how much time you have. Like after a 3-minute session that's happened for the past 30 hours, you give me 4 minutes and 8 seconds. I think that is great luxury. But having just played a classic
Okay,
game,
wait, I
this
have
feels like
attacked.
acute time
No, it
pressure.
doesn't work
Rook back to D1
because of
and
this
immediately
stupid
opening
bishop.
up a pathway toward a potential sacrifice, which is never going to happen as long as black keeps the integrity of this pawn structure. Bishop to g4, Robert. Would that force some sort of exchanges?
Is there bishop e4 as a response to that? I'm not really sure how to
Bishop.
evaluate it. Queen on h6 does defend that rook on c1.
Then I would say rook takes c1 and d takes e4.
Huh?
Bishop g5 at the end.
Means
He blundered.
Queen
No way.
sacrifice, the first rank is a problem for white. I think that's a great decision.
And another problem, bishop g4, queen
I don't know
f4.
if that was a mouse slip or something, but he blundered very badly. He had a winning,
There will be no
had a
queen
fucking
left on
winning
the
game.
board.
Yeah,
Takes
resigns.
bishop g5 is allowed.
And I'm back in 800s.
Uh-oh. The white queen trap is
What
a
a
surprising
game.
queen trap. But I don't think that enemy's just going to allow it. Because rook takes f3 in general seems
Yeah.
obvious with the bishop g5 follow-up. Even if it didn't with queen,
Ah.
it would give black the exchange
Okay.
right back.
Queen back to f4 is an option, but then f6 becomes available again. Queen to b6. Black has easy ways to improve, and Muzichuk is very well aware of the threat. I wouldn't rule out rook takes f3 anyway, but I absolutely would not do that given the circumstances.
Yeah, white created material imbalance. I mean,
Exactly.
black is doing very well right now, and also doesn't have that much time. So as soon as you sacrifice an exchange and you're down a minute, you're going to have a lot to work out. So here, Danya, I feel like I would try.
Ladies'
to
Night.
Queen c7.
His username is Ladies'
I
Night.
understand that white can h5,
Ladies' Night
for the
24.
black king, but the bishop
What
on
does
c2
that
is the
mean?
use, and you're going to put maximum pressure down the c file.
That's what I always learned from you, the conceptual moves. I would be pining for something more concrete like bishop g4. That would be my choice probably in a blitz game. But obviously, it's also very weakening. The d5 pawn becomes vulnerable. Taking on f3 doesn't necessarily achieve the kind of change in the position that you wanted to achieve. She has to. I know we keep repeating this, but I keep watching her clock tick down. Still plenty of times. 2 minutes is plenty. I don't like a horrible move.
Whoa.
F4, bishop h4,
What?
f4.
No, we were talking about this, and it's not going to work out. f4 also down to king g2, rook h1, checkmate down the h file.
F4 is the only move here, and I put this in her mind. I take responsibility, but it doesn't even matter, Robert. Even if I
I
didn't have
put
it,
on it
just
in
don't
my-
do this in
what
an
the
Armageddon
fuck?
game because it hands your opponent exactly the kind of imbalance that she's been looking for all game long.
नहीं मेरे को हिकारो वर्सेस गुकेश देखना
Why
है.
would moves even come to mind? Bishop g5 does not trap the queen. The queen gets slide back to
Please.
h2, but why would you want to pass
Okay,
it?
finally.
f4 is played. Danya,
So
isn't the
the
attack
Hikaru is
It's just hard. I mean, it's
Still
just
45
simple,
minutes
right?
ahead,
It's just
almost.
unbelievable because I wonder
Yeah,
what she expected,
44
taking queen back to
to
e4,
be
which
exact.
Still is good for white. Yeah, this is unreal,
And-
and the thought just crossed my mind.
and they have to make 10 moves
Once I
to
saw
get
F4, I
to
just
reach.
toss it away.
Okay, let's.
I didn't even see a
Shit's so
follow-up.
evil.
She took an entire minute
What?
to
Yeah.
self-destruct here, and now she's lost on the board and on the clock.
And all of white's pieces have been freed up. King g2, rook h1, move your bishop off of c2, you take control of the c file. There are all sorts of
I
sacrifices.
hope
that
he
black needs to
doesn't
keep an eye on.
repeat.
This is just lost.
Uncharacteristic for the women's world champion challenger, who is such a good tactical player when she's in her usual form. But some of these howlers in the Armageddon, especially in the classical portion against Sarah Kadam,
I slept
this
for
is a
like
forgettable event.
almost 4 hours,
Nothing left to do
and I
but
don't
to
know why
stare
I'm sleepy
at her
right now.
position in astonishment. How did this happen? F5, an attempt.
A move that needed to be played, but now move your bishop. I would say bishop d3,
Yeah.
followed by rook c6, and the black king is getting left.
King to g2, I think she intends something like d4. But even that doesn't threaten anything. Bishop d3, your idea, seems totally devastating.
There's just nothing against the white king. And rook f7 play. That's a good move. Black down to 1 minute 14 seconds. She has 12 moves to make before getting 1 second bonus time each turn played.
Okay, so it started with
losing on the board, and I guess
this
if she gets her bishop back around, which she's going for, she may have a chance to survive the initial wave of attack.
Position remains very tactical, and as king is exposed, a lot of undefended pieces, undefended squares. Anything can happen. We know this.
I hope Hikaru wins this
Touching
game.
as much Armageddon
Like
as
I'm
we can.
saying
You
it
know,
every
like
time,
times
but I really
we
hope
watch the
he
lifetime of
wins
Armageddon
this
just
game.
in this tournament, and we're always in for some twists.
Or if
D4
he
armor can
didn't,
still be met with
he
rook
should
takes e6.
really retire.
Oh,
I know I'm
E6.
being harsh, but yeah.
E6 is really nice here. You're hitting the bishop on d7 and that rook on f7, and you want to take. H7 will fall.
Imagine
Done
playing
E6,
like
bishop
this
E6,
and
EF, king f7. I feel like
losing.
there's some chance there for black on that light square diagonal.
king has to walk up to f6, and somehow it dodges. White needs to win.
Ooh. Yeah, and they're on move 33. D4 is automatic. I mean, you could pre-move that.
Yeah, don't play bishop c4 and allow d takes c4 check. Rook to e1 would be my choice.
Rook e1, D4
F3.
check anyway. Okay, and black can just start with f3.
Let's see a move for black here. I mean, 40 seconds it would take a one move blunder at this point for Anna. Just physically, it's hard to make the moves. Bishop c5, queen h4 drops the queen.
Yeah, also D4 for black always opens up that new diagonal. Bishop c4, queen f7 mate is on the agenda. So queen d6 played rook e1 seems automatic.
Yeah. Rook h1, queen f4. That is exactly. Yeah, you need to prevent queen f4. She gives a check. But king f7, rook h1, exactly what you don't want to do unless you actually have traced the line to its conclusion.
Right, because rook h1 threatens rook h7, but queen takes f4. The black king will run to e6, maybe wrap back around to d7 or d6.
Queen c8, that's also it.
You better be 100% sure. You know what the good news is, Danya? That Musichek has over 2 minutes to calculate.
Yeah. Not quite as much time as Hikaru has to enjoy his position, but it is plenty. Rook e1, rook h1. Probably other moves. Bishop c4, queen f4, rook d5 maybe, but
You're having a little too much fun there, but it's an interesting variation. King e6, so it doesn't even take on f4 yet.
queen c8.
Queen c8. That's nasty. That's really, really nice.
I mean, you just prevent, like, the escape. Bishop a6 even, just to prevent king d7 looks good, and then bishop c8, the best move in chess.
I think bishop a6 is the best move because queen c8, king f6, like, you can go rook h7 there and go for mate, but queen takes f4 still possible after rook h7.
Daniel saw a good move. Rook h7 here, and queen f4, queen c6, then king g5.
No, but these are the type of games that get out of hand because you go queen c2 back, stopping the first check, then bishop d6 for black. You know what I'm saying? Like suddenly there's a potential for an attack for black.
Yeah, but 7 seconds now. She makes 2 more moves, and then you get only a 1 second increment. No, she's not. If she pulls
Do I
this
have a
off,
fever?
I don't know what I'm going to do, but she's finding ways. She's 1 move away from the increment, so she's not going to lose on time. Queen g3 and queen d2 are threatened.
How do you stop it? Because queen c2 allows queen g3.
Let me tell you, 45 seconds for Anna feels like 1 second. With how she's feeling right now, which is like WTF, how do I get out of the checks? You start repeating the same question to yourself? Holy smokes, wait, what's the move here?
Okay, so queen g3, so it's just a single check, maybe bishop e2.
She plays it.
Yeah,
What
she
a
just
move.
took away the follow-up.
Still
And the
going.
game continues.
Queen takes d5. Black is not threatening anything.
Yeah, queen d5 is good. Unless that black bishop could get to e3 in one turn, and even there, with, between he checks.
Also,
it's like
queen c1 and
black-
queen e1 looks. Oh, rook h1 is a killer.
And then rook g1. That's game.
Great job by Anna to calm herself down. She flirted there with disaster briefly. The Ukrainian grandmaster. She will not let her experience fail her. Another
Okay, so we are.
scratching Armageddon loss for Leighton.
So now we have last 3 games to go.
Wow, what a... I can't call it topsy-turvy because it actually seemed like black was better, and then immediately white capitalized on Lei Chunji's mistake of the exchange sacrifice, and that was the game. So thank you, Esbaro. Thanks, everybody. We see you in chat with the subs and the donations, and thank you very, very much. But, Danya, where to? Are we back to Hikaru? Are we going to Fabi? Is there any
Yeah.
action?
Okay, so Ju and June has been. I don't know how they've been dragging that game out for as long as they have, but it's a dead draw. Just get to the Armageddon, please. We will bring that to you when it happens. The most interesting position is this one. Hikaru has made a decision which is not h5. And Fabi is actually, I think, very much in the driver's seat against Arjun. Very much so.
Fabi's pieces just look so healthily placed, and even though Fabi's been dealing with
Oh,
nice
क्या था
pawn,
wicket room?
activity around that pawn can make Nimzovich proud. So should we stay with Hikaru on the big board as well?
How about a
And-
two-board view, maybe?
Sure, let's do it.
On the big board, I'm going to put Hikaru. On the small board, I'm going to put Arjun. Just for a while. I don't think anybody complains when we have more than one game.
Please just get done with this game.
It's funny because Hikaru spent a lot of time and Gukesh down to under 14 minutes.
I
Very
have to
little has
be
changed
somewhere.
in the last few turns.
Just going to very quickly resize the board here. I'm going to put the eval bar up on both boards. Remember, we're now covering 2 different games. We will have a separate scene for this eventually. Remember, we are tyros at. I am a tyro at most things, including producing.
Don't know why am I sleepy right now.
You are a ball, is what you are.
You are too sweet. Okay, how do I do this? So eval bar in the car, evil bar in the car game.
You got this. I have faith in you. I'm just trying to figure out like can
Literally,
Hikaru's
I'm on 0 likes
forever, and
in the
H5
stream.
going for checkmate on H7 feels like a pretty
0
smart
likes.
play.
Sorry, just a moment. So this one, we want the eval bar on. Yeah, except it's pretty meaningless because it's too low depth, but still it gives us a general sense of like, you know, if a blunder happens or something. And I think we're good. Just need to bring this down.
Some good questions that are also being answered precisely in chat about Hikaru playing Rook H5, which is a very nice idea. Unfortunately, it's a clear threat. Like the threat is so obvious that Gukesh will know how to stave off the checkmating attack. So Rook H5 threatens Queen takes G6 and hopes, oh no, my rook. You take the rook.
No way.
H7 would drop the checkmate. So instead, Adani, I think the
Yeah,
H5
I'm sorry,
squeeze
I'm trying to like work the eval bar into the capture, and it's just.
I'm sorry.
Okay, how about this?
Ooh,
good?
now we're talking. Yeah.
King to G2 back again. I mean, Hikaru keeps shuffling his king between H3 and G2. Now it's Gukesh's move. Now we have both boards up with the eval bar, so we can follow everything as it happens. And of course, now Ju will start her Armageddon game just when I finish setting this up.
Well, there was a Queen B6 play, but people were asking about Rook H5, and I was just saying how it's a very obvious threat. If you take the rook, you get checkmate on H7. If you do nothing, white will line up Queen takes G6. That's the whole point of Rook H5 to pin the G6 pawn. But unfortunately, Rook H5 can be met by a number of moves, including King to G8, just to step out of the way.
Yeah, that's such an interesting point. King G8 does walk into a bunch of these checks.
Wait, I blundered that. Queen D5 is nice for right.
Oh, and Rook H7. No. Oh, just hang the bishop.
Bishop's hanging.
No, but the rook will be hanging.
No, but Rook and F8's hanging as well.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm watching my stream as well on my phone,
Too much effort. I don't want to calculate that.
and the delay is
Hikaru
insane.
has
It's
to
like
get a play.
almost
So he's down to 41
15
minutes.
second
This was
delay.
an hour advantage. It's halved.
Yeah, 15 or 20 second delay.
Gukesh 2, comeback wins in a row. So he has that small confidence boost. I say small just because of how hopeless this looks when you take into account all the factors in the position. Wait a second. What if h5? Can we just go back to this move? What's the problem with it?
Let's play a game.
I've been
I'm
wondering
getting
about
bored.
that for a long time.
Can't. I have two actually. Like while you were talking, I was like,
No,
can I come up with a move here?
really.
h5. What is black's move?
Bishop d6 maybe.
Rook 6.
Queen b.
By the way, I can put this in for rook b5 also. Yeah, this is over. Rook b5 would be game. Just
So
don't
queen-
blunder.
Queen b2 first, so that way I don't, get my queen trap.
Slide the queen in before the doors close. King h3, let's say.
Bishop d6 now, so I don't hang a piece.
And if I play rook to e8, it doesn't threaten a back ring because the black rook is defended. It gives black a tempo.
Yeah, queen takes a2 is my hope.
It's annoying. Yeah, it's annoying. Actually, this is a little annoying. So what if I play like rook g5? What if I stay on the fifth? But what's the
Still
threat?
queen? Yeah, still queen
Okay.
takes a2.
Fuck.
Yeah, queen a2, and I just want to illustrate to people that if you get a position like this, black can play h6, and I see the Aurora saying that black is winning, but you still have to actually find the mate here. I'm thinking like rook h5 and rook takes h6 is going to work. Probably even here. Now there's rook h6. It's a huge threat. Let me just show why. Takes, check, check.
Oh, he's
How
going to
sexy
go
would this
here.
be? If we saw something like this on the board, which we haven't, because Hikaru is still thinking of rook e6.
Well, Danya, instead of queen d4, I think g7, queen g6 first, and then queen h7 mate is there.
I'm sorry?
Instead of queen d4 check after the rook sack,
Yeah.
g7, king g7, queen g6.
Oh yeah, beautiful. That's crucial. Otherwise, white definitely would have.
Yeah, you force the king back to the corner and then deliver that checkmate with the battery. So, I mean, the black king is being hunted, but I see your general point that even if h takes g6 in plenty of positions, black says, okay, you want a pawn, I'll play h6, close that side of the board down, and try to then play on the other flank. But, still, Gukesh is just kind of shuffling his pieces, doing the best he can.
I'm going to repeat what I said in sort of preliminary phase of that game back against Magnus, which feels like it was a year ago. It was the day before yesterday. It's like when positions like this are screwed, when the miracle
Okay,
actually happens, and you go
I
back
hear
and trace
I
them.
hear
Or
fireworks
it's rarely
out
a
of
blunder at
out
the top.
my.
If there is a blunder sometimes at the end,
Did
this
RCB
is like 92
win this time?
anybody who's actually
Wait.
watched the game understands that the conditions that created that blunder were put into place.
RCB won
Accuracies earlier in the game.
IPL.
So typically
No
what tends to happen
way.
is you start with moves that make the win a little bit harder and a little bit the path a little bit
I
clearer,
didn't
and
watch a
eventually
single
time advantage
fucking match.
evaporates, you get nervous, and then something big happens. So Hikaru wants to avoid a situation where he needs to
Why do I keep blundering? But wait.
And especially because he's even been to the confessional apparently and talked about how he should be winning. Then you start thinking, where do I prove I win? Why is it so difficult? Can I still win? And even when if you need to hit the brake, you don't actually do so because you're so focused on getting the job done. So, like you said, rook h5, has that been played?
No,
or
it's
is
just
it
my YouTube chat is really hoping to see this move. Maybe it's, I don't know what the best move is, like at a high depth. What is like Sase give?
Well,
Bro,
rook h5
they
seems
should
good
stop,
because,
yeah.
the king can move to g8, so
Fucking
what is
hell.
black's response?
No, we didn't dismiss rook h5. It's just that you have to be careful about making such a move just because it's a fancy move. King h3 on the board. Careful now. You're like, you played too many times king h3. Your friendly neighborhood tournament arbiter might knock on the door.
They have been going back and forth a little bit. The white queen is on e4 now rather than c4, so that's one important wrinkle. And done at h5, is it finally time for that move, or is he going to play something else like king g2?
No, like he lost
No, I meant
most
this
of his
analogy
time
is it's like
advantage.
standing for the first time, about to jump into the pool, and you just can't
What
quite
most,
find
like-
the moment to do it.
A lot of.
You gotta do it.
Yeah, let's go spelunking. Let's dive right in to the position, but Donnie, he's not doing it. So what do you think Hikaru's worried about? I mean, it's a move that you can't take back, and he can afford pawn push. So what is the drawback that he might be seeing or seeing ghosts about?
Whatever the drawback, he's going to give Gukesh the draw back if he goes king. If he goes back to
He's
king 2.
gonna give
You
Gukesh.
killed Tel's deep dark cave where 2 + 2 = 5. Of course, it was a deep dark forest. Honestly, only black is in a deep dark forest. White is very much enjoying his... I don't even know if Hikaru is enjoying himself anymore. It felt that way earlier. Something tells me he hasn't been in the confessional booth for a couple of years now. So I just have I don't know, I have a feeling that he's like taking this more seriously now.
He's locked in, trying to find the way forward because he's impressing. But Gukesh is hanging in there just long enough, and the time advantage should be meaningful. And Donnie, on the other board, there is a big time advantage for Arjun Erigaisi, but Fabiano's played great chess, great defense, and now with the black pieces, we can see that the engine slightly prefers his position, but with the opposite color bishops, maybe it's nothing too major.
Just one more comment about Gukesh. It kind of reminds me in some ways of Tigran Petrosian. Of course, Tigran Hortanovic Petrosian, the former, the ex-world champion. In the sense that Petrosian had stretches like of his career where he'd play a bunch of games that are not necessarily pleasing to the eye, and he'd make a blunder here and there. He blundered a queen in one move against Bronstein, but he commanded complete and total respect for the chess world. Partially it was because of his just magical ability to stage one comeback after another, to not just draw but to win very often positions in which other players would have given winning hopes up a long time ago. So Gukesh has won 2 lost positions in a row, and he's cut down Hikaru's time advantage for 20 minutes. There's definitely still some juice left to squeeze there on both boards.
Oh, we have Armageddon, we have Vaishali, and wait, what's going on? Or maybe we don't?
Wait, how is there Armageddon
Oh,
already?
shit.
Like, that game was...
Shit.
No, there's a mistake going on. So I clicked on it, and then it's a draw, and then the game just went through from start to finish as the other game. So clearly there was some sort of relay error. Oh, now it's back in the starting position. I don't know if that means they're actually going to begin, but something weird just
Just
happened.
complete lack of consistency with, like, the time gap between when their classical game finishes and the Armageddon starts makes it so hard to even have a sense of when when they're underway.
Oof. By the way, Humpy Cunero has a big advantage right now against Sarah Kadam. We saw some weak dark squares, and they're only getting weaker, and Humpy is getting stronger as the time ticks lower. She has an 8-minute lead in Fuck. She has a sizable advantage on the board, and it'll be a very important win for her. And I think Armageddon now is live. Oh, no, I think this might be another issue.
Jeez. It's
I really want to finish this
just
game
one
on
last
stream,
question,
but I
Hikaru. Sorry
don't
to
think I
keep
can.
distracting people's attention. What is Black's intended response to H5?
I don't know, man. Like, Queen D7?
I'm caving. Turn Mr. Stockfish on. Stockfish doesn't have an answer, actually. It's just winning. I don't know what's going on with Hikaru. Is he just, like, enjoying this moment? I think he doesn't like something. Queen D7 check is the top move. King H2. And then Bishop to D6. Aha, there is a trap, though. You want to hear about it?
What's the trap?
The trap is here you have to go rook to E6. If you go
Fuck
rook to D5,
this game.
okay, that gives up the E5.
Back in
If you go
700s.
king to G2 instead of king to H2 after bishop D6, okay, this is getting kind of complicated. Rook E6, rook F6, for some reason, king H2 was more precise. But here you might even have to trade rooks, and maybe Hikaru doesn't like, from a distance, a position like this. Like with the engine, it's obvious that it's
Bro,
winning,
what the
but
fuck Hikaru
maybe he
wants
doesn't want
in?
to trade rooks. That
Does
was
he
in his
want like
plans. So,
Is this easily winning because the
He
black
didn't
king can't
his
get
hard
out?
as
If
full.
a queen trade happens, it's going to be a draw, or does white win?
it's much less convincing to my eyes than the position of the rooks on the board because of the prospect of perpetual check. That is a really scary concept, even though white is winning with best play.
I'm with you. I'm just wondering there, though, if the queens get traded, like let's say, I don't even know how to force that off the board, but get the queens off,
That's winning.
bishop c4. That's winning, right?
Yeah, it's definitely winning if the queen's off. Or not. It's a draw. Bishop c4, bishop f6 is the problem. Yeah,
Okay, but don't lose the c pawn. I guess that was the
but Hikaru wouldn't trade. I don't think he'll trade. I mean, I don't even know if he'll reach this position. So I guess we should just wait for moves.
Yep, and we're seeing moves, by the way. In the other game, it looks like Fabiano has captured the E2 pawn after Arjun captured on B6, opposite color bishops, even material.
Okay, so he. Okay, nice.
Ah, he just wanted us to savor, or he wanted to savor it, and he wanted us to be patient.
Now that the the real commentary team has
Why?
shown
Why
what
is he
about to
playing
do, it's now safe.
G2 H3 like
I'm
again and
still
again?
waiting
This
for
is like
Armageddon game. I'm just confused to know
fuck.
if chat can keep us. Up
I
to
guess
date
we are
with
seeing
when
this
that
position
happens. It
again.
seems like they're populating the game, and then the time is ticking, but it's not actually starting.
If I see any more opposite color bishops tomorrow, I might throw up. We got
No
our
more
fill.
of these. Yeah, we've had some. Yesterday as well, we had the Fabi game against Wei Yi, opposite color bishops.
What the heck is an Agud Mater? It's like an what is a Gukesh? Oh, saw another Gukesh there.
What is a done?
Isn't there a name for like it's like a metonym or something where you refer to type of object
Yes.
by I'm too tired to do definitions.
Yes. No, well, amendment is like, well, it's not a. It wouldn't be a Gukesh. It'd be more like. Is that like when Wall Street takes the place like the whole financial industry?
Oh,
It's like
yeah,
a word
yeah, yeah.
used to
Very good.
represent.
Like Washington to represent like I was gonna say like bad, but politics.
Now you're just expanding chat's vocabulary.
Gridlock. The walls are closing in. Okay, can we have a consensus on what we're gonna have a consensus on? I think a draw is likeliest in Arjun versus Fabi. If the time situation were flipped, I think Black would have winning chances there. But somehow I don't see Fabi setting up a Wally's mate. Wally's mate.
No, I think that that game should be a draw. So we'll
Like a
see if
volley.
that's. That's a good one. You can make it up. Make it always made.
Yeah, I'm gonna beta test that way of talking.
So, I'm seeing this correctly. What does that say? 0.1 better for Fabi?
That's all Greek to me. Yeah, it is 0.1 better for Fabi.
It does look better for Black, but there's nothing that looks too scary for White to deal with.
What is White's move there? Like Bishop. God, why does it feel like every move they're thinking for like an hour? Bishop E3, Bishop F3 is what he's worried about. But what actually is White's roadmap toward trading off some pieces and making sure that the king can sleep peacefully?
Well, let's say White does nothing.
This is tough to watch, and
That's exactly what he's doing. He's doing nothing, not moving. Bishop A7, you're saying? By the
Yeah.
way, look at Queen D7 and Bishop D6 is on the board. We actually predicted, well, Stockfish predicted the course of events. I'm a glorified move, Enterer. What if I go? I can't go G5. D4.
D5.
Maybe
Why?
like Rook to E5 or like Rook to E4 can be considered. And you know, these types of ideas, if the storm clouds can start to gather, I feel like White has to keep the bishop on the square such that it can like interfere with the rook if necessary.
I see what you're saying, that there could be an attack brewing against the White King, and White does need to be a bit careful, but I guess even the engine says that it requires some help from the opponent.
He has a good phrase that I've seen in chess books. Black won, but only with strict cooperation from the opponent. Although the eval bar is rising a little bit, there is no clear path, I think, to equality, to like forcing a draw immediately. Maybe bishop back to E3, bishop to F3, and bishop to F4. But even with the rooks off the board, there is still enough firepower to set up an attack on the light squares. I don't
I'm with you.
love this for Arjun. I feel like it's going to be a turbulent, flight to draw land.
Well, if the clock situation were reversed, we'd be talking about some real winning chances for Fabi. He still can outplay his opponent, but his pieces are also a bit pinned and awkward. So, Fabi better down 15 minutes. Hikaru almost winning, up 14 minutes. And now the question is, we saw bishop d6. You said rook d5 was incorrect because of rook to e8, right?
Oh, yeah. Sorry. When you say obstacle bishops, I'm like, both games look the same to me. Which move is wrong because of...
You said rook d5 for
Bro,
Hikaru
please
on the
end
big
this
It's wrong
fucking
because of rook
match.
e8, because it gives up the
That-
e file, and that's a big asset.
and rook e6, there's rook f6. Is that what we were talking about?
That is exactly what we were talking about. And potentially, Hikaru, this is my theory. It can't be a coincidence that he's thinking for this long. He would have made a move if he felt confident. I think that something is scaring him, and we know that it's winning because we see the eval bar, but he's gone down some very wrong path in his mind, and he started to feel that sense of doubt. Maybe this isn't as winning as I thought it was.
If we can make a couple moves in the
If you guys are hearing the fireworks, is because RCB won
f6 there,
IPL.
G6.
right? Is there like, you just have to think? Does queen? Oh, there's not queen.
H6.
Queen,
Black gets away with h6 and g7 check. Looks like it ends the game. It doesn't. Queen takes g7 and black holds on. You don't have any effective entry points because black can surround the king with this defensive cocoon.
So this is why Hikaru is paused. He doesn't want to get into this kind of rookless position. And Don, if you, that's a
Rook f6 on the board. This is another reason, by the way, sorry, Robert, to cut you off, that white doesn't have the forced win because g8 is protected by black's queen, and black might build a fortress here. He does give the check on e8. That's a big move.
Damn, man,
so
it's
he's keeping
fucking.
an attack going. Rook
Okay.
f8 here. The rooks are going to have to come off the board. And what's the big difference?
Well, the difference is
Oh, queen a8. We're talking about this. We just keep
Come on, Hiki baby,
yes,
so
black is
close.
more paralyzed and has less
Oh, this
ability
result.
with his queen than he would if the
Also,
rook takes f6. Now, Gukesh might play bishop f8 here. We didn't talk about that move. I'm assuming it loses. I don't know why. Or why exactly.
queen a8. Queen a8.
King g8, bishop c4, the light squares just end you. Right. No, I mean, this is still going to take such a Herculean effort, even in the best of scenarios.
You did make that near to hero reference before, so now when you said Herculean, I've just got zero to hero stuck in my head. So thank you for that, Danya.
I have some more Medusas to slay, it seems.
Oh yeah. You have seen Hercules, I take it.
No.
What?
Is that even a movie? That's a city. I mean, when you say Hercules, I think of the city. It's actually a city in the Bay Area. It's pretty obscure.
So that's what you think about.
Yeah. I mean, I'm from the Bay Area. It's like the least known place in the entire Bay Area. There's a little town called Hercules, like near Berkeley, right on the fringes.
are you
You are
familiar
the
with
only even the people
Netherlands?
from Hercules still think of
Yeah, there's half a person from Hercules, and he's probably not watching our broadcast. Well,
no, but I'm saying even those people who are from there, they think of the mythological character, obviously, and they think of the movie. They don't think of their own city or town or whatever you're talking about.
alert, alert, alert. Bishop f8 has been played. And
Okay.
queen a8, queen to d6 is not convincing according to our superior commentator. Because the queen can stay on this diagonal to keep this bishop alive. The best move here is... God, it's a4. I'm sure Sese probably... I mean, rook b8 is what I would be lobbying for, setting up the potential for like queen a8. You want to keep as many possible threats alive as possible. You don't want to commit to anything unless you know it's forced win.
But what does rook b8 do? Sorry, like
What's
the
your
difference? Like queen d6. What's changed?
Yeah, this is like computer babble. Oh, it's to play rook b1 in the end.
Oh, that
It's
is.
like Taimanov Karpov.
I was thinking actually that the queen could slide back to the h file at some point, but this is even nicer. Just getting the rook over there, and there's nothing black can do with king g8, bishop c4
Oh
check.
my god. So rook b8 to set up the maneuver to h1 so that when the h file opens, you can deliver the mate.
So, okay, that is really nice. And hg6, does that mean that black, you kind of
He
have to?
does play queen a8 though. he does play it. It's still winning, I think, but there's no force to win after queen d6. That's the thing.
So wait, queen d6, hg6. What's the?
First of all, queen f7 here. I think it loses, probably for many reasons. I think even the pawn endgame is going to be lost.
Yeah, like bishop c4 might be winning there as well.
Try to calculate in my head.
Also,
Not really sure. Actually, it's like the margins are starting to narrow.
No queen move by Hikaru.
so queen d6,
Yep.
hg6,
Okay, hg6.
and there's still going to be some kind of checkmating idea that getting a piece of the h file.
Yeah, but
so,
the bishop is hanging there, so you don't have the time to swing the rook back to e1.
It's happening,
I see what you're
guys.
saying.
So for people to
Wait,
understand what
wait.
we're even talking about, I see that Arjun is potentially in some trouble there. If
No,
queen d6 is
if Arjun loses this game,
and
then
white trades on g6, people
like,
might be asking,
we have
what
no
if I
hope
try to
for
get a rook
Magnus
take? The
winning.
difference is after black recaptures, the bishop then hangs, and here black wins the game. Rook h1, king g8 is a dead end for white. Okay, but Gukesh hasn't made a move yet, so he's clearly taking queen f7 very seriously. And maybe he should be.
Yeah, the a2 pawn's hanging with check as well. What an annoying move, queen f7.
But bishop c2 would end the game, transferring the bishop to a defended square, simultaneously ensuring that a2 cannot be captured with check.
Bishop c2.
It's a little bit better than bishop c8, but only by a tad.
That's an amazing idea.
One that we will not see.
Nah, he played
exceptional.
fucking d2.
Gukesh took exception to it,
D6.
and so that therefore he put the queen on d6. He's down below 9 minutes now.
So is Fabi on the smaller board there, and you were correct, Donnie, that Fabi can march his king forward. The king on g6 would be very safe, and it's the white king that's in serious danger.
Well, both kings are in some danger, particularly if black has king f7. God, Hikaru's another 23 minutes. I think I can take a Dubov nap. It's a 20-minute. That's like a nap before the next round of the World Rapid.
Two of now.
Can it? I was wondering if Hikaru could play rook d8 to protect his bishop.
If anyone is wondering what Dubov's nap is,
Like bishop c4,
in the last World Rapid and Blitz Championship, Dubov was paired against Hans Niemann, so he didn't wanted to play Hans because he think
It's very annoying.
Hans
How does Gukesh? It's like it's just like the
It's
mid-
not
like
good
it's
for
like
the
an
sport
octopus
because he
running the
cheated.
tentacles off and, you know, others regrow to take their place.
because he
It's like some have
cheated, so
rearranged these
he
pieces
made this
to
silly
prevent all of the entry points.
what
to
do we
slough
say?
all the entry points.
It's like the
excuse
Caravaggio
of taking a
pictures.
nap.
It's a sight to behold. Where people line up to watch these excellent moves played by Gukesh when he is in trouble. If only he could get off to a better start in these games, but he continues to impress with his defensive prowess. But Donna, it still feels like White should win this game. It's about just crashing through. But the queen on d6, the rook on f6, they're going to keep in line with the bishop on f8.
Very well said. And I will take a prayer. We'll take something insane for Gukesh to win. But we've been saying that for the last 3 days, and something insane has most certainly happened yesterday, the day before yesterday. And Gukesh defeated Hikaru in their white game, so there's a lot on the line here. Hikaru knows that the narrative is being written, right? The stories are being written as this game is played. He doesn't want them to be published. He doesn't want them to turn into reality.
So you're seeing the recap video is being recorded right now?
Oh, that is just below the belt, man. No, it's very well done. Very well done.
Thank you, my friend. But rook d8 is not a friendly move at all. It tries to settle queen d5, bishop c4, and leaves open h takes g6, mates on the h file. Just everywhere you look, white is creating a new threat, and black is barely hanging on.
World champion has been doing a lot of hanging on the last 3 days. And he wants to keep that 100% success rate, but it's going to take something cataclysmic.
What's
I
up,
see a good
Tejeswar?
comment in chat
Tejeswar
there.
in the chat.
J3 saying if you can force H6
What's up,
after
bro?
H takes G6,
How are you?
then White can put Bishop on F7 to cut the Rook
Are
on
you
F6
practicing
off.
for
Bishop can take a very
HPC
good point,
2025?
and that would lead to a win.
By the way, you
So
have to
goes
send
to
that
White.
shout out
I see you brought up
before
the
this
Shah
week.
game. Let me open that lineup.
I'm
Like,
gonna open up the Caruana
not
game in
before
case
this
something
week. You
crazy
have
happens, but I immediately.
you
But
have
right now, like,
7 or 8
Fabio
days
and Arjun
of
taken
time
together will probably
for you to
keep
send
thinking while this game
the
unfolds.
shout out.
What?
Finally, a chatter in
Let
the
me try again. Let me refresh.
chat.
I have special privileges as the
Now it works. It
resident
was showing
nobody.
it was showing the same position that they had played previously. So now I see what's going on.
This fucking
She's up
Armageddon.
for 3 minutes, playing
Yeah.
very quickly, and Danya in a must-win game, exactly the type of position you want if you're Rashad.
She has been all over the place this tournament, but she's been all over the place on the board in a good sense. Queen to B3 here would come to mind. You can massage this weak pawn on B7. And the way you
Massage the
the weak square on B6, it can impact you in the long run. You also have some positional
Damn.
things to decide. Like, do you want to trade the knights? Do you want to play like Naroditsky? The answer is no. For some reason,
Just resign, Gukesh. Please resign.
Well, playing like Danya means that you're getting tactical, that you're going on the offensive, and I would say that White's position is very
I'm not
good for
beatboxing
Rashad.
much
Even
these
if
days.
possible game,
HBC,
not
Nocturne. Yeah,
it's not just because
it's
of bars thing.
it's mostly in October first week or September's last week.
B6? Is there something wrong with that?
So yeah,
right
2
now?
months and we are starting the
I think
prep
Charlie has the same question, and June hope that the answer is yes.
now.
The answer
Like
is no.
we will
Hikaru's game, rook to D8,
put
rook to
shoutouts
D7, but this
and
does
we
allow
are
now
going to
the
market
potential
this
for an
very
exchange
well,
of
and
G6.
there will be
Look over at the
wildcard
big
as well.
coach.
There will be
Here's the
wildcard
window.
this time,
Well,
but
can you stick
you don't
queen
have
with
to
the king
upload one
instead of
because
queen
you're
H1?
already in top
King
16.
F1.
King F1 to prevent the check. You're exactly right. And you take and go King F1.
There's G5.
No way. Bishop G6.
Damn,
Bishop G6.
Hikaru, let's go. Let's go.
Bad man.
No, but queen needs. But the king is out.
You're a bad man.
Does this win the game? Does King F1 to set up this move that you
Damn.
play in your chess career? Queen A8 back to H1 check.
The fuck?
You are a bad
I
man.
don't know. I'm
Yo.
looking- I'm not very
Bad,
good with
man.
the third commentator, but the second one seems to agree with me, don't you? Oh, C6.
King F1.
Right.
Then Queen. Oh, Queen C8. Now we're in that position. Queen C8, go Queen H3.
There was even bishop takes G6, but Queen
Fuck.
C8 is lovely geometry.
I'm just taking your
G5
idea.
there. G5.
No, Queen C8 now. G5, F-G5.
But Queen C8 here.
Is it for the entire India or we have 2 categories for like there's like normal which is just for Hyderabad, I mean yeah, Telangana, Telugu speaking states, and
But Queen C5.
we also have a open category which is going to be most probably 7 to smoke.
Ugh. This must be winning.
It feels like it has to be, but
What about
still.
Queen C8, Rook F7?
Oh, wait. Queen H3 check.
G8?
Keep putting the Rook
Yeah.
takes F8 check.
Whoa.
Does it work? Does it work
What
though?
a move.
Wait,
No.
wait.
Rook takes F8. Rook takes
Wait.
F8.
Oh,
That's an amazing, because otherwise King F8 is mate, Queen F8 is unstoppable mate. Wait, but what's the winning move here? If Hikaru finds Queen C8, of course, which is a big if.
This if
Well,
we
it
fuck.
could win. What is the crusher? It's like plus 8 million.
just like Rook somewhere and Bishop C4 next. Unstoppable. Rook D4.
D4, yeah. Yeah, too many threats. Bishop C4 and Bishop G6 is just a double attack, as simple as that. My god. How much, like, geometry and weird patterns have we had this game?
Yeah, we've had all sorts of ideas to distract pieces, to leave pawns after they've been captured, to sacrifice and go after the enemy king. It's just
Ooh.
it's been a fun day. What do you
And
think?
King F1 is is not as convincing because of queen c5, and in certain situations that king would get vulnerable. So Hikaru, this is a very important example of not only do you have to find the correct idea, you then have to ask yourself, what is the most accurate execution of this idea? Can I find like another way to exploit the idea, carry it out, without, you know, enabling the drawbacks of my original intention?
I hear you. Sorry, I'm just trying to keep up with all of the games. Bobby is better as well. Humpy, she's so much better against our Dem right now. So these games are all heating up at the same time.
Oh my gosh, I'm so tired. There's just so much happening right now.
Well, I guess
Like these rounds, it's only been like 2.5 hours, no, 3.5 hours. But still, it's not a lot.
no, it's not. But Danya, it's not a lot of time for Ju and June. But what I do appreciate about her game is her latest move, B7 to B5, extremely instructive.
Okay, like the yeah,
She's
just like
saying,
the banger champs.
Vaishali, I know you're going to come for my king. You're going to attack me. Yes, you best not miss.
Sorry,
More
was
importantly,
I didn't
want
see the
to
chat.
distract your forces by breaking open the queen side, so you can't have a singular focus on the king side.
Yeah, the idea isn't to play b4. I think it's to open the b file. But you best not miss. You best not mess with White's attack. Obviously, Vaishali is not hiding her intentions, and nor should she. Queen f8 by Ju and June thrown in. Queen h4 would be my instinctive response. Of course, Queen g5 is also possible.
But queen d8 is
I
the
take it.
response either way from
I
Black.
take it and I take b5.
The rook slides back to b8.
It's on the board. Queen d8, very well spotted. Queen f6 is
Yeah.
an interesting collinear move, but I don't think it's enough in the endgame. Vaishali finds a way to keep the queens on the board.
It's what we've been talking about, though, Danya. In Armageddon games, when Black is the one who gets the points with a draw, that players don't want to trade queens. Even if it leaves White with an advantage, it's a scary thought because, as the mantra goes, right, all rook end games are drawn.
All rook end games are drawn. But all games have been drawn, or have been drawn in the classical portion. Although it looks like she's going to win. That's another game that's heating up, but it's not where the center of the action is at. What is Ju and June going to do? Because the threat of f5 has been renewed. Did she play
It looks tough.
Ooh, she ignores the threat. Maybe she wants f5, rook takes b2. Then
No, but
f
Oh, I think it's FE. I don't think it matters. So
F
much.
anywhere.
The black, yeah, the black
Okay,
king
so he
is
played
too exposed.
queen
It's on the board.
c8.
And if you move the bishop, the floodgates are going to open. And you
Now
just
the
don't-
threat is queen
You don't have to
h3.
beef on the king side to
Cool,
throw
but
anything
why
against
this
Magnus.
time taking more
Queen
time? It
pieces
was
against
in
no.
yeah, bro. It was in August,
Opening choice from Vaishali.
but
He
like
just-
last time it was in a rush, so we just had a month to prepare. But now we have got
Gukesh, but queen
we've got a
C5
lot
to
of
queen
time.
Queen H5. But I was just going to say very quickly, Danya, on the left-hand board underneath their cameras, that for Vaishali, it was an excellent opening choice. She was able to get an asymmetrical pawn structure from the start, gain activity on the queen side, and she translated that activity into play on the king side in a vicious attack.
She was able to do that out of a Berlin. And rook takes b2 is played. Now Vaishali has to decide which pawn does she take. It's like you go trick-or-treating. You're offered two types of candy. Do both of these
That's
moves
why
where
we
we're
are
talking
doing
about
it
taking
in
the bishop or
late
taking the
September
pawn
or
and trying to destroy
October.
Black's pawn cover.
And
Taking the
also,
pawn is
if
riskier.
we do in August or
But you
early
take the
September,
bishop,
there's a
right?
high
I think
risk
it's a
of
simpler
rain.
option and then take the pawn.
And you know what happened last
Really
time?
good choice from
We
Ju.
lost all
She's
the
in
audience
trouble.
because
At
of the
B6, and
rain.
Queen d6 check takes that pawn back. And how many pawns will Black get for the lost bishop? Was it 3?
Well, unfortunately, it should have been met.
You started preparing now, bro.
Black's king will meet.
I'm
the
looking
hands
for a
of
job
death
right
after
now.
rook f1.
You have to block it, otherwise pawn promotes, and then e6.
And we have a lot of time to prepare, so not yet.
This is get your tools, get your torture devices ready. This is just like
Not yet.
that pawn cover is going to be blown to smithereens after rook f6 and queen h5, and rook takes g6 wins the queen and wins the game.
Yes, that's game over. Vaishali, what a knockout this game was.
That attack, I mean, I think she had like 5 pieces more than necessary. I mean, just the pawns could have decided. What an incredible consecutive game. She really built that up patiently, spent time at the right moments, and defeats the women's world champion in the Armageddon. That's one that will go into her best games collection for sure. we are watching the Fabiano game, which is heating up. Look at Fabi's clock. He's got 3.5 minutes. That might not be enough time to figure anything out.
But Arjun's in big trouble. I mean, Fabi doesn't have much time, that's true, but rook takes h4 is always going to be a threat against the white king. The queen can always step back to h5 for black, keeping d5 defended, threatening rook takes h4, bishop f3, bishop g4, all sorts of ideas, and the black king is very safe.
By the way, Sara Kadam she is just collapsing. It seems every middle game she just cannot find her footing. Of course, not ashamed to lose to the elder stateswoman of Indian chess, Humpy Canara, just a few moves away. I'm keeping an eye on that game. Our eyes are all over these two games as Hikaru Nakamura looks at the finishing touches with bishop takes g6, and Fabiano decides whether he wants to repeat moves. This is a repetition, by the way, Robert. He has just come from g6. So look, but no, he came from f7 to g6 to h7. Never mind.
He's playing for a win. Why should he make a draw, Fabiano? He has the healthier king and all sorts of attacking chances. But Danya, Hikaru hasn't moved. He's down under 14 minutes, and Magnus was winning against Gukesh, started getting into time trouble. And
Don't say that,
Hikaru's trying to find the precise
don't say
continuation
that.
stops black's threats. Bishop takes
Don't
g6
say
is the
that.
move we've been talking about after queen c6 check. Maybe the
Well, this year chance seems so interesting.
Maybe Hikaru thinks that he doesn't have
But
anywhere nice to run.
yeah, this year is
Should
going
he
to
run
be
the event
interesting
c6
one
check to h2?
because we are planning a lot of things,
And why not?
but we also
Queen h3.
like Adi is not going to participate because he is going
So
to
what
Italy,
exactly is the problem here? The eval
and
are draws.
also one more member, I guess.
Earth. Queen c6 check, king h2. The problem
I don't
is
remember.
king g8, the king sidesteps the check, and suddenly you're absolutely right. The king on h2 is going to feel mighty lonely, especially at the hands of black's queen, which will land on one of these squares. This guy never dies. Like, Gukesh keeps finding ways to stay in the game, and this was the best move. Bishop e4, forcing c6, and then you take on g6, stopping the check. What an idea to cap off. Honestly, a brilliancy.
That is such a strong move, not just because it's recommended by the engine, but bishop d5, cutting that queen off from the h file. Queen h5 is the only way to stop queen h3 check, and so bishop d5 comes in another attacker. The g6 pawn, not as relevant as checkmate.
Retire, more like retireless. It's this guy, bishop e4. What an application of logic in chess, right? Like you look at bishop g6, you understand what's wrong with it, and then you ask yourself, I'm not going to abandon the idea. I'm going to make a move to set up a auxiliary threat. What is that auxiliary threat? That is the threat of going bishop d5, and then queen h3 is unstoppable. Therefore, Gukesh has to play c6, and only then does the bishop travel to g6. By the way, this is winning, Robert, because after rook f5, we have to also see that the queen steps back to e6. Every square that black defends, he gives up a different square. And look at this mate. I mean, the king might get mated on h6. Just divine, honestly, divine technique by Hikaru Gukesh, trying his last pawns, his last minutes to complicate the game. What a valiant effort by Gukesh as well. We just gotta applaud him, because this game still isn't over. It is not over.
The fact that this game is still going just feels just ridiculous, but it's Gukesh's fighting spirit. So what's the move here? F takes g5, Danya. There's a queen f2 check, but maybe the checks run out, and so you can successfully grab that pawn, but it looks scary at first glance.
Absolutely, 12 minutes for Nakamura. He just needs one or two more accurate moves, but I've been saying that for 20 moves. I'm not sure what the move is. I would imagine it's f takes g5, and then king h3.
Rook d5 is somewhat tempting as well, but then queen takes c3,
He's
and
played
the game continues. Yeah, he's just taking away the blocking squares. Queen takes g5, drops the bishop on f8 with checkmate. The queen's ready to slide back to h3 with mate anyway, and the check on f2, the white king is able to run to h3, and there's only a few more checks.
Yeah, queen f2, king h3, queen f1. You could even step up to h4, and there are no checks. You could block with the bishop. There's a choice there that white would have.
Fabi
His
might
margin
win.
is just like
Fabi might
crumbling
fucking
at
win the
seams, but
Norwich
does
chess
Fabi have the time to punish him?
for the first time, I guess.
That's been the story for Fabiano in this event. He lost a worse position against Hikaru. Since then, he's won 3 games of classical chess, and that's why he's been in the lead. But there also were some games that got away from him, including his position against Magnus. who did
And also
win
against
the endgame,
Gukesh,
but not
I
enough
guess.
to
Yeah,
to Danya.
against
Black is better
Gukesh he
against
was
Eval Bar.
winning,
He's
but
takes C3 a free
yeah, again the
pawn
fucking
that
luck
Fabi can take.
comes between.
That's what Arjun wants him to spend his time thinking. I have no idea. Bishop f8 is a main threat that he has. Queen f5 by Fabi keeps the queen in the area of White's king.
Oh, you know what he's going
And
for?
Gukesh is down to 3.5 minutes.
God. He's looking at the
How do you stop
h3
that?
square as a mating square.
Yeah, but I guess more people will participate this time as last year Cham kept a standard and a lot of new beatboxers and exactly we have new beatboxers as well this time, so hopefully they'll participate.
Man, I think when I play this title Tuesday after we finish
Hopefully they'll
commentating,
participate, and yeah, this time
in every game, that would be
we are going to like upscale the production in the after uploads, because 7 to
of course every game into
the reason why I'm not uploading 7 to smoke because of the audio, because we couldn't get the audio right for
every
like
single game. But anyways,
it keeps happening every time, but this time we'll make sure that the audio
You distracted me and then
comes
undistracted me.
from the mic directly.
You know, he is locked
We'll
in
make
on
sure
the
of that.
Bishop b5, bishop d7, queen h3 would be checkmate. And Donna, you raise a good point on the left-hand board that maybe Arjun's a sacrifice material to stave off the first wave of attack. And for Hikaru on the right-hand side, the big board, I think that Gukesh is out of moves. It's just a checkmate on the h file or on the 8th rank.
out of moves and almost out of time, and you know, at some point you run out of pieces to create resources.
Bro, just resign,
As
bro.
valiant of a defender, as
Just
resilient of a
resign.
player, and even if you've mounted as miraculous of a comeback as you have in this tournament, and there comes a point where
Okay,
you
so
are
we'll
squashes the
watch
resistance.
Narrodiscus commentary and
And they usually say third time's
We'll
the charm, but for
watch
Gukesh,
this
like the third
cam.
time is the one time he'll lose because he has seemed invincible in the last few days, but this game has been one-sided ever since Gukesh decided to take it away from the center and expose his light squares.
Made in 23, according to assessing that
Made in
really
23.
It really deepens our understanding of why Black has lost. Without that,
now this year battle is also an Asian. No, not sure yet.
information, that's kind of funny.
I don't know yet.
And I'm just trying to keep track of everything. Humpy, Canario,
Damn, Vaishali won against Jew Engine in Armageddon.
Humpy is just over. Nisara Kadem is down upon.
And if Humpy wins this match,
Humpy is
she'll
going to be in first place in the women's section.
Rook to e1 there.
Hikaru with that
threat,
fuck-
checkmate at one move with bishop f8.
Hikaru with
But
that
that's a
speed,
one-move threat.
bro.
Fabi's
That's what I
maneuver
love.
with his bishop would create
See,
a one-move threat that is far harder to stop. Rook f7, Hikaru. What is the final touch? G4, G6. Not sure. I don't know. Let him show us. Can he play G6?
the way he lifts his hand like this.
F1 check is Gukesh's potential.
But even their bishop g2 forcing the queens off has to be winning for
Yeah.
Like, he does this, well, this,
Okay,
his
12
pinky
minutes.
finger is always like
Yeah, I'm
this.
trying to figure out what else to say about this game because unlike the previous days,
Okay, then bye, see you
believing
soon.
in
Yeah.
Gukesh's chances in his position, Hikaru has given him no chance to mount a comeback.
Yeah,
Maybe try to come in between if you
It's a lot
can.
more of a deterministic
We should
win.
keep
It's
a
like
cipher
not
in between
John
HBC,
John and give you
like
great
a
counterplay
prep
here,
for
and unless
HBC.
Hikaru blunders in one move, which he never does, and G6 lands.
No,
We're gonna get a handshake.
Narrodisky,
Also,
no.
look at his time management; it's phenomenal. Really, hats off to his time management. Thank you, Daryl, for the subs. Let me thank someone on your behalf once, Robert. I think I owe you several.
Why the fuck he plays, bro?
I
You know,
appreciate that.
he's
Thanks, Daryl,
this.
for tuning in. I know you're very
I know
busy
he has
and,
won,
always
but
appreciate your support.
it
So
just
let's
doesn't
see
make sense
what's
to
going on
me.
here. The last few moves between Hikaru and Gukesh. It's a good time to be a Hikaru fan.
Okay, let's
Saying
fucking go.
it's mate in many now?
I mean, I wouldn't trust the eval bar. Queen F1, King H4. It's made it 1 because Gukesh is going to extend this hand, I think. He's going to try Queen F1, Queen C1 maybe.
Oh, that does keep the game going. Huh.
No, but then Rook D5. King H4, Queen C1, Rook D5. How about that? Bishop B7. Jesus, this guy just won't go down.
You know, it reminds me of Austin Powers, but you probably haven't seen those movies either.
A long time ago.
Why won't you die?
I've only seen
so
San Antonio Powers.
Why won't you die?
Houston Powers.
what?
By the way, like the city in Texas.
But why Powers?
No, like I just make good fun.
Oh, okay, sorry.
A low effort, crappy fun that I should have never
Just
made.
play.
And Hikaru will get a bishop to F7 and mate his opponent.
Ouch.
Let's
The most
go.
clinical way of finishing this game where black's pieces can't really move anymore. So for Gukesh, it's not going to be a happy day.
Well, every Russian schoolboy knows Hikaru's like he's like closer to 40 than he is to 14.
Let's go. Let's fucking go. Hikaru wins.
The technical prowess, none of that.
Yes.
It feels like he's gotten better at that
Uh,
as the years go on. The age-defying Hikaru Nakamura. What a
Let's
game
go.
against the world champion.
Let's
Bishop to
fucking
D5
go.
with a centralizing move and Bishop F7 unstoppable.
There you
just
go.
gotta take your hat off because F takes G6. He never looked back.
And you know, we've been kind of
Finally.
describing games where Magnus
Fucking.
against Gukesh. Gukesh played very resilient
Finally.
defense, super resourceful. This game, it honestly was decided.
Finally.
Was that move 20? F takes G6.
Exactly 30 moves before the game ended. The move ended under 50.
And I mean, it's just one of these moments where you play this position 100 times. F takes G6 is the move you play in one. Unfortunately, it's today, and unfortunately for Gukesh, that's going to really hurt his chances to win Norway chess, especially if Fabiano on the other board there.
Let's go. Hey,
When you analyze
let's
these games
fucking.
that pull up, I mean, Humpy's game, I think, is
Alright,
just
so we can happily end the stream
in any case, I don't
now
know
that
if they are
Hikaru
really
has
big
won.
moves, and,
Yeah, it's sad to see that Juvenil lost
just,
the
comment
Armageddon,
your
but
thoughts under a minute. Just
I
last thing,
don't
Gukesh,
care,
he
bro, right now.
analyzes this tournament with his seconds and his
The
team.
way Hikaru
I mean,
won this.
defense, he needs no work on. That is a
It's
strong suit. It's some of these inexplicable decisions that will need to be addressed. Fabi needs to address the fact that he's got 38 seconds to make them.
Yeah, Fabi's got to speed up.
Alright,
That's not
let's-
always been his calling card.
Let's